Chapter 1781. In the Huayu Mountains. Almost. The destructive divine thunder, formed by the seventh thunder tribulation, almost broke the defensive formation condensed by the soul power and directly hurt the divine soul in the space of the sea of consciousness. Fortunately, Thowling, who had considered everything in advance, reduced the power of the destructive divine thunder by more than 70% in advance. Fortunately, the pure thunder and lightning energy formed by the sixth destructive divine thunder made Yu Haoran's cultivation about to achieve a transformation. Finally, Yu Haoran survived the seventh thunder tribulation without any danger. According to the plan made in advance, the green lotus formation flag resisted the first and second thunder tribulations. The floating flame formation flag resisted the third and fourth thunder tribulations, and the white cloud formation flag resisted the fifth and sixth thunder tribulations. Then, he forced the device spirit of the Earth Book to resist the seventh and eighth thunder tribulations. Finally, Thowling used the Yuantu sword and the Avicii sword to resist the last and most powerful destructive divine thunder of the thunder tribulation. However, due to the fact that the vermilion bird had accidentally seized the floating flame formation flag, it had shifted the target of the fourth bolt of tribulation lightning. As a result, the floating flame formation flag, which was supposed to block the fourth bolt of tribulation lightning, was successfully blocked by the fifth bolt of tribulation lightning. After a short discussion with Thowling, Yu Haoran absorbed the pure thunder and lightning energy in the space of the sixth sea of consciousness. He slowly opened his eyes, got up, and walked directly to the ginseng fruit tree 10,000 meters away. Boy, what do you want to do? Yu Haoran suddenly got up and walked to the ginseng fruit tree, which made the device spirit of the Earth Book change its expression and ask. By chance, I got the green lotus formation flag, the floating flame formation flag, and the white cloud formation flag of the innate five elements formation flag. Yu Haoran said with a faint smile as he quickened his pace and approached the ginseng fruit tree. Now, the three formation flags have been seriously damaged by resisting the destructive divine thunder of the thunder tribulation. They can't continue to resist the remaining two thunder tribulations. So you can resist the remaining two thunder tribulations yourself, or I, Yu Haoran, will self-destruct and destroy the ginseng fruit tree with me. Brat, Yu Haoran's shameless threat made the book's spirit speechless. At the same time, Yu Haoran's shameless method of using the ginseng fruit tree to force the book's vessel spirit to resist the thunder tribulation made the blue dragon and the white tiger look contemptuous. The black tortoise also showed a thoughtful look. Kid, judging from the situation of the previous heavenly tribulation, you should be trying to use the destructive, soul-severing divine thunder energy formed by the thunder tribulation to attack Emperor Wu's cultivation at the pinnacle of the ninth level, or in other words, to attack the demigod realm. As an existence at the pinnacle of connate spirit treasures, and having experienced the trials of the primordial era, the middle era, and the late era, the artifact spirit's profound state of mind and experience allowed him to quickly calm down from his rage. Looking at Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged 100 meters away from the ginseng fruit tree, which could not only prevent the soul-severing divine thunder from harming the ginseng fruit tree, but also directly destroy the ginseng fruit tree with him if he failed to pass the heavenly tribulation. The artifact spirit quickly calmed down and began to think about how to deal with the current predicament. When he sensed the faint lightning energy flashing on Yu Haoran, combined with the situation of his previous heavenly tribulations, the artifact spirit finally found a way to deal with his threat. If I resist the thunder tribulation, I'm afraid you won't be able to get a trace of its energy. Looking up at the eighth soul-severing divine thunder that was about to strike down from the black clouds, Yu Haoran looked at the artifact spirit 1,000 meters away and ordered calmly. Artifact spirit, after weakening 70% of the power of the eighth thunder tribulation, take the initiative to withdraw the defense against the thunder tribulation. Kid, why should I listen to you? Seeing Yu Haoran ordering him as if he were a subordinate, the artifact spirit asked with a strong killing intent in his eyes. After all, as a top primordial spirit treasure bred in the chaos, even Xinyuanzi, who had reached the supreme realm, communicated with him as an equal, and never dared to order or instruct him to do anything. Artifact Spirit. Either you listen to my order just now, or I will directly use the 29 ginseng fruits to achieve my purpose. Ignoring the Artifact Spirit's question, Yuhaoran looked at the ginseng fruits hanging on the ginseng fruit tree in front of him and still threatened him with a calm expression. Kid, you're a despicable villain who is more shameless than a rogue. Whether it was the primordial spirit Qi that was far superior in quality than the spirit Qi of heaven and earth, or the aura of the origin of laws contained in it, the effect of using ginseng fruits to improve cultivation was not inferior to the thunder tribulation formed by the soul-severing divine thunder. Therefore, in the face of Yuhaoran's second, more rogue threat, the Artifact Spirit couldn't help but curse in anger. Thank you for your compliment. For Yuhaoran, whose skin was as thick as a city wall, the Artifact Spirit's harmless insult not only didn't cause any ripples in his heart, but also, to everyone's surprise, he took the insult as a compliment. You, the Artifact Spirit, who had never seen such a shameless person, was once again speechless with anger. Artifact Spirit, you don't have much time to think about it. Seeing the soul-severing divine thunder, which was as thick as a bucket, blast out of the black clouds, Yuhaoran warned the Artifact Spirit as he got up and made a gesture of approaching the ginseng fruit tree. The ginseng fruit tree was not only the cornerstone of whether Jin Yuan's tomb could be upgraded to be able to bury celestial artifacts in the future, but it was also the key to whether his body could obtain the mark of chaos and become a primordial spirit treasure. Therefore, nothing could happen to the ginseng fruit tree. In the face of Yuhaoran's threats and warnings, the Artifact Spirit was so angry that it wanted to directly crush this shameless rascal in front of it. However, it could only forcibly suppress the murderous intent in its heart and take the initiative to resist the eighth soul-severing divine thunder formed by the thunder tribulation. Although the eighth soul-severing divine thunder formed by the thunder tribulation was more than 10 times more powerful than the seventh, it was relatively easy for the Artifact Spirit, who mobilized the power of the earth stored in the tomb, to resist it. Artifact Spirit, it's done. After being reminded by the Thaling in his sea of consciousness, Yuhaoran, who had already condensed a soul power defense formation in his sea of consciousness, reminded the Artifact Spirit in midair and looked at the ginseng fruit tree in front of him. Chapter 1782. In the Huayu mountain range. Seeing that the book Spirit obeyed Yuhaoran's orders and gave up the eighth destructive soul-severing thunderbolt that had been weakened by 70%, Thaling, who was holding the Yuan killer sword tightly in his sea of consciousness, secretly heaved a sigh of relief. If the Artifact Spirit refused to let go of the lightning punishment, then the Pagoda Spirit would risk being discovered and use the Yuan killer sword to severely injure the Artifact Spirit. At the same time, it would help Yuhaoran take back the eighth soul-severing godly thunder formed by the lightning punishment. After Yuhaoran used his soul power to condense a defensive formation and narrowly survive the eighth thunder calamity, and accelerated the absorption of the pure lightning energy scattered in his sea of consciousness, Thaling quickly condensed 36 imprints on his 10 fingers as he put away the Yuan killer sword. Then, the 36 imprints silently merged into the soil at the root of the ginseng fruit tree with the support of the victor's space-time energy. Whether I can recover the martial god realm before Yuhaoran breaks through depends on this incredible opportunity. Through the barrier of his sea of consciousness, Thaling looked at the soil that had merged with the 36 imprints, his eyes filled with anticipation and nervousness. Just a little bit more, and I can break through to Emperor Wu's complete 10-stage realm. After absorbing all the pure lightning energy scattered in his sea of consciousness, Yuhaoran could clearly feel the bottleneck of breaking through. At the same time, through the firmness of the bottleneck, he could basically confirm that what he felt was not the bottleneck of the martial god realm, but the bottleneck of Emperor Wu's complete 10th-stage realm. Yuhaoran opened his eyes and looked at the dark clouds above his head. looking at the thunder calamity that was constantly churning and gathering in the dark clouds. A hint of hesitation flashed in his eyes. This was because, according to the feeling of the bottleneck, just now, he knew that he did not have the strength to directly break through to Emperor Wu's complete 10-stage realm in a short period of time. However, the reality was getting more and more complicated, so he had no choice but to take the risk and forcefully break through. After all, even the immortal divine spirit elite warriors could officially appear in the Tianxian continent. Not only would the strength of the martial emperor and demigod realm not be able to affect the general trend of the Tianxian continent, they would also not have the power to protect themselves. Only when Emperor Wu's cultivation had advanced to the 10th stage perfection realm, with the help of the immortal sword and the divine sword, would he be qualified to talk to and fight with the gods. Only then would he have the strength to protect his family and friends. Thinking of this, the hesitation in his eyes was instantly replaced by determination. Yu Haoran raised his head and ordered the artifact spirit of the Earth Book, who was preparing to resist the 9th Thunder Tribulation. Earth Book's artifact spirit. You only need to weaken the power of the 9th soul, severing divine lightning by 60%. Are you sure? After hearing Yu Haoran's order, the artifact spirit asked with a strange look in its eyes. According to the usual punishment of the Thunder Tribulation and the time it took for the Thunder Tribulation in the black clouds to accumulate the power of thunder and lightning, the artifact spirit of the Earth Book knew that the power of the 9th Thunder Tribulation would probably be dozens of times stronger than the previous 8 Thunder Tribulations combined. Even if it used the power of the ley lines that it had stored for countless years, it was not 100% confident that it could withstand the 9th Thunder Tribulation safely. Therefore, Yu Haoran's request to increase its power to resist the Thunder Tribulation shocked the artifact spirit of the Earth Book, and at the same time, a trace of admiration arose in its heart. I'm sure there was still a distance between sensing the existence of the bottleneck of the realm and actually having the ability to break through the bottleneck of the realm. Yu Haoran intended to take the risk to resist and absorb the more powerful soul severing divine lightning so that he could really have the ability to break through the bottleneck of the realm. Then, with the help of the reward after the Thunder Tribulation, he could break through to Emperor Wu's complete 10-stage realm in one fell swoop. Therefore, after nodding in response to the confirmation of the artifact spirit of the Earth Book, Yu Haoran closed his eyes again and began to prepare the means to resist the last Thunder Tribulation. First, he took out the wishful bell that had just been repaired and upgraded by the second doppelganger, with dozens of saint and venerable level celestial devices as the first line of defense to resist the last Thunder Tribulation. Then, he overdrew nearly 1/3 of his soul power to condense a defensive formation that reached the limit of its defensive power as the second line of defense to resist the last Thunder Tribulation. Finally, he took out the Avicii Divine Sword from Victor as the third line of defense to resist the last Thunder Tribulation. Thaling, who had also sensed the terrifying power of the 9th Thunder Tribulation, wanted to persuade Yu Haoran not to take too many risks. However, after seeing the various defensive means he had made, he was slightly relieved and had probably guessed the reason why he took the risk. Although the soul-severing divine thunder was fatal to the divine soul, with the double protection of Victor and Yuan too, he could also help Yu Haoran in time when he encountered fatal danger. Therefore, after Thaling extinguished the idea of persuading him, he stared at the black clouds with full vigilance, staring at the last soul-severing divine thunder that was about to descend from the black clouds. Perhaps it was because the previous 8 Thunder Tribulations not only did not bring the slightest harm to Yu Haoran, but also allowed him to use the pure lightning energy of the soul-severing divine thunder to improve his cultivation and strength by leaps and bounds. Or perhaps it was because the risky intervention of the Vermilion Bird and the Earth Book had completely angered the instinctive consciousness of the Thunder Tribulation. The energy of the Thunder Tribulation that had been accumulated to the limit not only did not come for a long time, but instead began to gather more and more black clouds and lightning energy from farther away. Soon, The energy accumulated by the thunder tribulation in the black clouds had exceeded the limit. The terrifying aura emitted by the thunder tribulation that exceeded the limit of energy was no longer something that the black clouds could hide. This made the three mythological beasts and Usiki, who had retreated to the edge of the mountain range, have to continue to retreat hundreds of meters, thousands of meters, and finally to a distance of 10,000 meters. Feeling the terrifying power contained in the last thunder tribulation, Palace and Zhongli Swamp's eyes showed a trace of worry. Even Usiki, who was about to advance to the unruffled realm, subconsciously clenched her fists and stared at the black thunder tribulation with her beautiful eyes. The opportunity is here. Looking at the black clouds that could no longer hide the aura of the thunder tribulation, the blue dragon and the white tiger looked at each other and found that there was a trace of excitement in each other's eyes. Although the child of destiny is protected by the heavens and earth, he is not immortal. I don't know if the Formation Emperor can withstand the attack of the last thunder tribulation if the Earthbook's artifact spirit suddenly withdraws from the defense. Unlike the excited blue dragon and the white tiger, the black tortoise first paid attention to the Earthbook's artifact spirit when it felt the increasing power of the thunder tribulation, and then there was a trace of worry in its eyes as it guessed. Damn bastard boy, he's forcing me to fight with my life. Originally, relying on the accumulated power of the ley veins in the cemetery, the Earthbook's artifact spirit had a 90% chance of being able to withstand the thunder tribulation safely. Now, in the face of the thunder tribulation that suddenly exceeded its limit, it was extremely shocked to find that even if it consumed all the power of the ley veins stored in the cemetery, even if it risked serious damage to its body, it would be difficult to withstand the last destructive soul-severing thunderbolt formed by the thunder tribulation. Chapter 1783. In the Huayu Mountains, Yu Haoren and Thaling did not notice the hesitation in the eyes of the book's artifact spirit. They did not show any signs of panic as the power of the last thunder tribulation continued to rise. Thaling, who was holding the Yuan killer's sword tightly, used the support of Victor's space-time energy and the assistance of the Earth Elemental Pearl to quietly send his second doppelganger to the underground at the root of the ginseng fruit tree. Yu Haoren, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, took a few elixirs to increase his soul power to recover the 1/3 of his soul power that he had just overdrawn. His expression was as calm as water as he waited for the last thunder tribulation to descend. Boom! With a roar that shook the 4 regions in the mountain range, an ink-colored divine dragon that was 100,000 meters long rushed out of the black clouds. Roar! The ink-colored divine dragon raised its huge head and roared angrily at the sky. With a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth, it charged directly at the artifact spirit that had revealed its true form. Damn it, this is the thunder tribulation spirit transformation technique. If the power of the thunder tribulation that surpassed the limit was at the peak of the 9th grade martial god realm, then the ink-colored divine dragon, after the thunder tribulation spirit transformation, was infinitely close to the supreme realm of a first tribulation supreme. Therefore, looking at the ink-colored divine dragon that was charging quickly, the artifact spirit cursed with a gloomy expression. Not only did it directly use the power of the ley lines that it had stored for countless years, but it also mobilized a part of the formation defense in Zhen Yuan's tomb to resist the ink-colored divine dragon that was condensed by the thunder tribulation spirit transformation. Boom! One strike. With just one strike from the ink-colored divine dragon, the artifact spirit spat out a mouthful of brown gas. At the same time, its face was as pale as paper. The aura of the peak of the 9th grade martial god realm fell directly to that of an early 1st grade martial god realm. Seeing that the ink-colored divine dragon's body had shrunk by less than 20,000 meters, the hesitation in the artifact spirit's eyes was quickly replaced by a look of determination. Its 10 fingers quickly formed 36 seals. Kid, I'm sorry. The Earthbook's artifact spirit silently apologized in its heart as it sent the 36 seals into the 36 tombs in the mountain range. Yu Haoren, the artifact spirit of the Earthbook, is withdrawing. Just as the artifact's spirit began to form the seals, Thaling calmly reminded him in the sea of consciousness space. Thaling, given the artifact's spirit's current state, how much more power can it weaken the Thunder Tribulation Spirit Transformation's current state? Asked the artifact's spirit's spirit transformation. Of the Thunder Tribulation Spirit Transformation was spirit distributing the seals, and condensing the seals formed seals through the sea of consciousness space of consciousness space. Thaling, the artifact spirit sets of the thunder, through the divine will that had fused with the soil at the roots of the ginseng fruit tree. The pagoda spirit had spied on and examined the array in Jinyuan's tomb, and then combined with the strength of the earth book after merging with the tomb, it gave an accurate answer. Spiritus, I'm sorry. After receiving an accurate answer from the tower spirit, Yu Haoran silently apologized in his heart. He directly used the method of the instant fusion of his main body and doppelganger. Just as the black divine dragon's dragon claws were about to touch his scalp, he instantly disappeared and appeared underground at the root of the ginseng fruit tree. This, Yu Haoran's sudden disappearance immediately caused the blue dragon and the white tiger, who had retreated 10,000 meters away from the mountain range, to look surprised and suspicious. This was because under the Thunder Tribulation Spirit Transformation formed by the soul-severing thunder, whether it was teleportation with the power of space law or space travel with the best escape talisman, they would all be firmly locked. Even under these circumstances, Yu Haoran was still able to disappear in an instant. This was exactly the same as the two young men in blue robes. How could it not arouse the suspicion of the blue dragon and the white tiger? It really is the one chi into three pure ones technique that Laozi created. The black tortoise was now 100% sure that Yu Haoran had obtained the I Chi Sanshin cultivation method that Laozi had created for him. But Yu Haoran was still able to teleport despite the void being completely sealed off by the lightning tribulation. At the same time, this further confirmed the possibility that Yu Haoran might be the child of destiny. Damn it! Although Yu Haoran's sudden disappearance also made the book a little confused, it did not pay too much attention to it. It was fine as long as the black dragon, formed by the ninth Thunder Tribulation, could leave the graveyard. However, when it saw the black dragon roaring and rushing toward the ginseng fruit tree, an idea suddenly flashed through its mind. It quickly mobilized the power of the earth veins to form a defense to protect the ginseng fruit tree. At the same time, it also used its connection with the graveyard to quickly check the bottom of the ginseng fruit tree. When it saw Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, using the innate spiritual chi transformed by the roots of the ginseng fruit tree to speed up his cultivation and strength, the book could not help but look up to the sky and curse angrily. Then it controlled its body and instantly appeared beside the ginseng fruit tree. Then it clenched its left fist and hit its chest hard. After spitting out a dark brown gas, the book controlled the dark brown gas to merge into the Book of the Earth. After merging with the dark brown gas, the Book of the Earth grew rapidly in size and gradually began to change its shape. In the end, the Book of the Earth turned into a dark gray dragon with a body of nearly 100,000 meters. Yu Haoran, the Book of the Book has already used the original energy of its body. It should be able to weaken the power of the soul-severing divine thunder by about 30%. After seeing the Book of the Earth turn into a gray dragon, Thaling secretly breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly reminded Yu Haoran. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran could not help but frown. 20% plus 30% was only 50%, which was 10% more than the requirement of 40% of the power of the Thunder Tribulation. Yu Haoran, don't worry. Seeing Yu Haoran frown, Thaling, who probably guessed his thoughts, explained with a smile. As long as you don't leave the bottom of the ginseng fruit tree for the time being, the Book of the Book will do everything possible to continue weakening the power of the Black Dragon. In the end, it will meet the power of the Thunder Tribulation you need. Thaling, then I'll have to trouble you to continue watching the Book of the Book and the Thunder Tribulation Divine Dragon for me. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Howren, whose eyebrows were relaxed again, reminded him. Then, he closed his eyes again and continued to place his hands on the roots, forcibly absorbing the pure, innate spiritual energy transformed by the roots of the ginseng fruit tree. Although the innate spiritual energy transformed by the roots of the ginseng fruit tree could not be compared with the ginseng fruit for Yu Howren, who was trying to break through to the 10th-stage perfection of Emperor Wu, the effect of the innate spiritual energy transformed by the roots of the ginseng fruit tree was not inferior to the energy of the thunder tribulation. Chapter 1784. At the edge of the Huayu mountain range. When the white tiger saw that the Earth Book's artifact spirit was using up the origin energy of the Khanate spirit treasure to withstand the black divine dragon formed by the lightning tribulation, it immediately discussed with the azure dragon with an agitated expression. Big brother, when do we make our move? When Yu Howren appears to resist the black divine dragon formed by the thunder tribulation, it will be the best time for us to snatch the ginseng spirit tree. A cold light flashed in the azure dragon's eyes as he replied through his divine thought. The white tiger glanced at the black tortoise from the corner of his eyes and asked with a hint of hesitation, "What about fourth brother?" "Second brother. Fourth brother is no longer on the same side as us." The azure dragon turned its head to look at the black tortoise, who was staring at the black tortoise. A cold glint flashed in the azure dragon's eyes. Since they were not on the same side, they were not on the same side. The white tiger could not help but sigh and nod silently after hearing the blue dragon's evaluation of the black tortoise. Although the dark gray dragon that the Earth Book had transformed into was much larger than the black dragon that the lightning tribulation had transformed into, the Earth Book's artifact spirit had to conserve at least half of its strength to protect the safety of its spirit body due to the suppression of the soul-severing divine lightning. Therefore, the result of the battle between the two dragons was that the dark gray dragon was at a complete disadvantage. Fortunately, the Earth Book's artifact spirit did not really need to defeat or kill the black dragon. He only needed to continuously weaken the black dragon's strength until it met Yu Howren's requirements. Therefore, even though the Earth Book's artifact spirit was at a complete disadvantage, he did not panic too much. Just as the Earth Book's artifact spirit used the dark gray dragon to fight the black dragon formed by the thunder tribulation, Thaling's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. He immediately took out 36 formation flags embroidered with small towers from the victor and inserted them in different positions on the ground. After that, Thaling took a deep breath and looked through the barrier of the knowledge sea. He looked at the blue dragon and the white tiger, who were secretly using a secret technique to extract the bloodline power of his clansmen. His eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. The imprint is the foundation, and the formation flag is the bridge. Next, whether we can get the essence of the earth veins accumulated in the 3 periods depends on whether the 2 animals can hold back the artifact spirit of the Earth Book, whose strength has declined, and force out Zenyuanzi's hidden means. Pulse. After the vital part of the abdomen was fatally hit by the black dragon's claw, the device spirit of the Earth Book, who could no longer maintain the dragon transformation, directly overdrew 1/3 of its original energy to perform the heaven-defying martial arts technique that Zenyuanzi specially created according to the characteristics of the Earth Book's gathering of the power of the earth veins. As the dark gray divine dragon let loose a low roar, the 36 tombs suddenly trembled slightly. Immediately thereafter, a seemingly invisible power that was actually the collapse of space around the mountain range quickly rushed toward the black divine dragon manifested by the lightning tribulation. Roar! Accompanied by a pained cry, the black divine dragon's body began to shrink. Soon, it was less than 40,000 meters long. "Boy, I've done what you asked. Now leave the ginseng fruit tree quickly." Seeing that the power of the lightning tribulation had been weakened to less than 40%, the device spirit, who had returned to the shape of the Earth Book, secretly breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly shouted to Yu Howren, who was hiding under the spirit tree. After hearing the reminder of the device spirit of the Earth Book, Yu Haoran immediately withdrew his hands from the roots of the ginseng fruit tree. After taking a deep breath, he directly jumped out of the ground with the earth elemental bead and stayed 100 meters away from the ginseng fruit tree. Yu Haoran's initiative to stay away from the ginseng fruit tree made the pale-faced device spirit of the earth book, whose aura was low, and his eyes flashed with satisfaction. Then, he quickly rushed toward the ginseng fruit tree. But at this moment, the blue dragon and the white tiger, who were 10,000 meters away from the edge of the mountain range, instantly appeared beside the ginseng fruit tree with a very special method. Roar! Then, the white tiger looked up to the sky and roared at the device spirit of the earth book. Then, it raised its thick tiger claws and pointed at the device spirit of the earth book. Slayer's Realm. Accompanied by the soft cry of the white tiger, a fierce, murderous aura filled with a special and mysterious aura instantly enveloped the earth book, forcing the device spirit of the earth book to stop its downward momentum. Junior White Tiger, Junior Blue Dragon, you're courting death. Seeing that the white tiger had used the mysterious martial arts technique to trap it, and seeing that the blue dragon was using the secret method of stellar transposition to seize the ginseng fruit tree, the device spirit of the earth book, whose expression immediately darkened, gritted its teeth, and warned. Because the black tortoise's attention had been focused on whether Yu Haoran could survive the final attack of the black divine dragon, it did not notice that the blue dragon and the white tiger were fighting for the ginseng fruit tree. Therefore, when it saw the blue dragon using the secret method to seize the ginseng fruit tree, and the white tiger trying to use the mysterious laws to deal with the device spirit of the earth book, the black tortoise's expression changed, and it immediately flew toward the 9th tomb of the mountain range. However, just as it rushed into the tomb of the mountain range, it suddenly stopped its forward momentum, and a trace of hesitation appeared in its eyes. Because they were both proficient in formations and formula Dao, Xinyuanzi and the Black Tortoise family had a lot of exchanges in the Middle Ages, and it knew Xinyuanzi's character and methods better. Therefore, when it saw that the device spirit of the earth book looked gloomy, but there was no trace of panic on its face, the Black Tortoise immediately guessed that Xinyuanzi must have left some means to protect the ginseng fruit tree. Although the four guardian families were bound together for good or ill, judging from the fact that the blue dragon and the white tiger had secretly extracted the bloodline power of their clansmen and deliberately avoided the black tortoise, it meant that they had begun to consciously guard against and distance themselves from the black tortoise. In that case, there was no need for the black tortoise to risk its life to help. Moreover, the fact that the 36 tombs could be upgraded proved that Xinyuanzi had long become a supreme existence in the supreme realm. In that case, in the face of the means left behind by such a powerhouse, the black tortoise would most likely die if it acted rashly. At the thought of this, the black tortoise quickly retreated in front of its clansmen, and then looked coldly at the blue dragon, who was using all his strength to move the ginseng fruit tree, and the white tiger, who was fighting fiercely with the device spirit of the earth book. Phew, how lucky! Thaling, who was in the sea of consciousness, quickly put away the Yuan killer sword and sighed with a slightly pale face. Yes, looking at the slightly dim divine soul, Yu Haoran, who was as pale as a sheet of paper, nodded in agreement with a lingering fear. Yu Haoran originally thought that he could deal with the black divine dragon, who had less than 40% of its power left, with 3 layers of defense that he had carefully prepared and coupled with his constantly improving cultivation and strength. Chapter 1785. In the Huayu Mountains. If not for the fact that the Avicii Divine Sword could withstand the aura of the law of destruction contained in the Thunder Tribulation, if Thaling had not taken the risk of seriously injuring his spirit body and used the Yuan Killer Sword to defeat the Black Dragon in time, he might have really died in the Thunder Tribulation this time. Fortunately, the Black Dragon was killed by him, and Thaling in the end, and the Thunder Tribulation formed by the soul-severing Divine Thunder was successfully passed. It could be said that he had completed his plan in advance. Thaling, the Epiphany Tree, the Tianyuan Dao Soul Tree, and the Ginseng Fruit Tree are up to you. Yu Howren exhorted the Tower Spirit to the Tower Spirit as he looked at the black divine dragon that had been shattered by the Yuan massacre divine sword and transformed into a boundless amount of rich and pure energy. He was pleasantly surprised as he circulated his mental cultivation method and martial technique to absorb it. Got it. After nodding in response to Yu Howren's advice, Thowling immediately used the remaining half of his divine thought to quietly put away the Epiphany tree and the Tianyuan Dao Soul tree without attracting anyone's attention. Then he stared at the ginseng fruit tree that was being moved by the blue dragon bit by bit, watching the tree pit that was gradually leaving the ground. Pulsation. Ignoring the blue dragon who was moving the ginseng fruit tree, the artifact spirit of the Earth Book looked at the cage formed by the mystery of the law of slaughter. After a trace of contempt flashed in his eyes, he began to perform the second move of the heaven-defying martial technique created by Zheng Yuanzi. As the artifact spirit of the Earth Book shouted softly, the first tomb on the east side of the mountain suddenly shook, followed by the second tomb, the third tomb, and all the way until the 36th tomb also shook. Following the trembling of the 36 tombs, the Earth Book artifact floating in mid-air began to flip its pages rapidly. Moreover, from the rapidly flipping pages, waves of strange energy waves continuously shot out. Oh no! When the energy ripples shot out from the Earth Book came into contact with the cage formed by the profound mysteries of the law of slaughter, a shockwave that contained destructive power instantly shattered the cage and injured the white tiger's mind. The cage formed from the profound mysteries of the law of slaughter contained his own comprehension of the law of slaughter, as well as the bloodline power of the 9 martial god clansmen. It could be said to be the strongest technique he could unleash up until now. His strongest move was defeated by a simple martial arts technique of the Earth Book's artifact spirit. This made the white tiger immediately realize that something was wrong. At the same time, he quickly reminded the blue dragon, who was moving the ginseng fruit tree with all his strength. Big brother, I'm no match for the artifact spirit of the Earth Book. Let's retreat. Together with the soil at the root, the ginseng fruit tree had been successfully uprooted by more than 70 centimeters. Seeing that the treasure was about to be in his hands, how could Blue Dragon be willing to give up? Therefore, while he chose to overdraw his bloodline power, he sincerely requested the white tiger. Second brother, 10 seconds. Give me 10 seconds at most, and I'll be able to obtain the ginseng fruit tree that will help us advance to the half-tribulation supremacy realm in the future. Woo! The Azure Dragon's sincere request caused a trace of hesitation to flash through the white tiger's eyes. Looking at the ginseng fruit tree that was about to be uprooted from the ground and the shockwave that was about to affect him, he finally roared at the sky. Then, he spat out 3 mouthfuls of golden blood essence and began to use the forbidden secret technique that his ancestor had created. Blood Tiger devours the sky. Seeing the 3 mouthfuls of golden blood essence that the white tiger spat out quickly fuse together and gradually stretch into a red tiger that was about 100 meters tall, the artifact spirit of the Earth Book muttered to himself softly with a hint of surprise in his eyes. By overdrawing his bloodline power in exchange for greater strength, the blue dragon finally succeeded in uprooting the ginseng fruit tree. Rise! Seeing this scene, the artifact spirit of the Earth Book hurriedly reached out to press down on the pages of the Earth Book that were constantly flipping, and then quickly retreated 100 meters. Seeing the artifact spirit of the Earth Book take the initiative to retreat, a hint of joy flashed in the eyes of the depressed white tiger. However, the black tortoise, who was at the edge of the mountain range, couldn't help but remind him loudly. Second brother, immediately stop the forbidden secret technique of the blood tiger devours the sky, and then quickly take big brother and leave the cemetery. How could the white tiger, who was already wary of the black tortoise, listen to his reminder? Not only did he not stop the forbidden secret technique, but he also increased the speed of the forbidden secret technique by overdrawing his bloodline power. Sigh. Seeing that the white tiger didn't listen to his reminder and was still stubbornly using the forbidden secret technique, the black tortoise couldn't help but sigh softly. Then He looked at the ginseng fruit tree that had just been uprooted from the ground by the blue dragon. How dare you! At the moment when the ginseng fruit tree had just left the ground, a majestic voice suddenly sounded in the cemetery. Accompanied by the majestic voice, a middle-aged Taoist in his 40s, who was wearing a starry robe and holding a horsetail whisk, with an elegant temperament and a serene expression, slowly floated out of the hole where the ginseng fruit tree had been uprooted. Space-time shadow. When he saw the elegant middle-aged Taoist, the Thowling whispered to himself with a look of surprise in his eyes. Zenyuanzi! Zenyuanzi! After seeing the middle-aged Taoist holding a horsetail whisk and looking like an immortal in the clouds, the blue dragon and the white tiger couldn't help but cry out involuntarily with a change of expression. After all, he was a divine beast expert at the peak of the 6th level of the divine realm. His strong state of mind and strength made the blue dragon calm down quickly. Then, he carefully observed Zenyuanzi in front of him and soon found that not only was Zenyuanzi's body slightly illusory, but his aura was also not as strong as he had imagined. Second brother, this is just a trace of Zenyuanzi's remaining consciousness left in advance. His strength is far less powerful than we thought. Let the blood tiger deal with him. After confirming Zenyuanzi's true state and strength, the blue dragon, whose eyes flashed with a trace of joy, immediately reminded and ordered the white tiger. Got it. Blue dragon's reminder and order made the white tiger calm down quickly as well. At the same time, it immediately raised its white paw and pointed at Zenyuanzi. Then, the blood tiger, emitting a strong evil spirit, rushed towards Zenyuanzi with a murderous look. Die! In the face of the murderous blood tiger, Zenyuanzi waved his horsetail whisk indifferently, then raised his right hand and pointed at the blood tiger. A special power that even the pagoda spirit could not detect instantly blasted blood tiger's body. In less than 1/10 of a second, the blood tiger, who was more than 100 meters tall, completely disappeared in midair, leaving only a drop of essence blood with a special aura. Collect. Seeing the essence blood floating in midair, the device spirit, who had retreated hundreds of meters away, was pleasantly surprised. He immediately raised his hand and sucked the essence blood, which then fell into his hand. Alas! Chapter 1786. In the Huayu Mountains. Go to hell. After easily killing the blood tiger formed by the forbidden secret method, Zenyuanzi pointed at the white tiger with his finger. Feeling the threat of death, the white tiger rose into the air without any hesitation. When he was about to escape from the cemetery, a special power that transcended time and space instantly hit him. Just like the blood tiger, the white tiger, who was nearly 1,000 meters tall, completely disappeared in the air in less than 1/10 of a second. Then, Zenyuanzi's eyes and fingers were directly aimed at Blue Dragon, who was about to put away the ginseng fruit tree. Zenyuanzi, if you dare to kill me, I will destroy the ginseng fruit tree directly. Thinking of Yuhauran's means to threaten the book spirit, Blue Dragon stretched out his huge claws and pressed them on the ginseng fruit tree, threatening with a ferocious look. Go to hell. Unfortunately, in the face of Blue Dragon's threat, Zenyuanzi's expression did not change at all, and he continued to shout softly. Zenyuanzi, you forced me to do this. Seeing that Zenyuanzi was not afraid of the threat at all, Blue Dragon, who knew that he would definitely die, suddenly had the idea of perishing together with him. His huge dragon claws hit the ginseng fruit tree fiercely. But at this time, the special power that transcended time and space instantly hit his huge body, making the dragon claws completely disappear before they touched the ginseng fruit tree. After easily killing the blue dragon and the white tiger, Zenyuanzi's eyes and fingers were fixed on Yuhauran, who was absorbing the last thunder tribulation in the sea of consciousness and transforming it into pure lightning energy. Yuhauran, watch out. Seeing that Zenyuanzi's attention turned to Yuhauran, he quickly took out Yuan Tu and the Thowling of the Avicii Divine Sword and reminded him nervously. Thowling, don't worry. Zenyuanzi can't hurt me for the time being. Looking up at the milky white energy that was constantly being nurtured in the black clouds, Yuhauran reminded him with a relaxed look. Die. Just like how he treated the blue dragon and the white tiger, Xinyuanzi pointed at Yu Haoran with a cold expression. Then, a special energy that transcended time and space instantly reached Yu Haoran's side. But at this moment, a milky white energy barrier appeared above Yu Haoran's head out of thin air, successfully blocking the special attack that intended to destroy his body and soul. Xinyuanzi, whose expression had never changed, was surprised when he saw the milky white energy that appeared out of thin air. Then, he looked up at the milky white energy that was washing down like a waterfall and muttered to himself in realization. So it's the protection from the lightning tribulation. Similarly, after seeing the milky white energy washing down from the dark clouds, Yu Haoran suppressed the surprise that emerged in his heart. He took a deep breath and immediately accelerated the absorption of the remaining pure lightning energy in the space of his sea of consciousness. Then, with the reward of the thunder tribulation, he began to attack Emperor Wu's 10th stage perfection realm. Brother Xinyuanzi, what should we do next? The device spirit of the book, who appeared beside Xinyuanzi, looked at Yu Haoran with a trace of envy in his eyes. Although the process of transcending the soul-intercepting divine thunder, which was known as one of the 3 great thunder tribulations of Doomsday, was relatively dangerous, as long as one could safely transcend the lightning tribulation. The harvest after the lightning tribulation was quite amazing. At this moment, the milky white energy washing down from the dark clouds could not only bring about a rebirth for Yu Haoran, but also for the device spirit of the book, whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th stage martial god realm. It could also greatly improve the physique of his body and divine soul, giving him more hope of attacking the half-tribulation sovereign realm. Even if my body comes in person, before the reward of the lightning tribulation is over, I can't hurt him at all, Xinyuanzi said with a gloomy face as he looked at Yu Haoran, whose aura was constantly strengthening. Brother Xinyuanzi, can you use the occult of the law that you have mastered to directly move this guy out of the tomb space? After hearing Xinyuanzi's explanation, the device spirit of the book secretly heaved a sigh of relief and suggested with a thoughtful expression, "Why? The time of the reward of the lightning tribulation was limited. As long as he waited patiently for a while, he could completely kill this young man who dared to covet the ginseng fruit tree." Therefore, Xinyuanzi was puzzled by the device spirit suggestion, and he could not help but ask with a frown, "Brother Xinyuanzi, through the various means that this guy showed during the process of transcending the lightning tribulation, I suspect that Lord Purple Spirit has been secretly guarding him." The device spirit explained without hiding anything. The device spirit of the space-time victor. Hearing the device spirit mention Lord Purple Spirit, Xinyuanzi could not help but confirm with a change of expression. That's right. While nodding to confirm, the device spirit of the book reminded him with a solemn expression. Brother Xinyuanzi, in the battle of celestial devices at the beginning of the world, chaotic supreme of the Bell of Chaos, supreme Haotian supreme of the Haotian Seal, and supreme Purple Spirit of the Space-Time Victor were all supreme peak experts who had touched the immortal realm. So, whether this guy is secretly protected by Lord Purple Spirit or has some special relationship with Lord Purple Spirit, we better not hurt him before the immeasurable tribulation comes. Compared to Thaling's chaotic concern, the device spirit of the book, who had been keeping calm, knew that Yu Haoran, who was protected by the lightning tribulation, would not be in any danger when Xinyuanzi attacked Yu Haoran, which was why he did not stop Xinyuanzi. After hearing the device spirit's explanation, a trace of hesitation flashed across Xinyuanzi's eyes. Although he did not know as much as the device spirit of the space-time victor, supreme Purple Spirit, who had touched the immortal realm, he knew that even if 10 supreme experts joined forces, they would not be a match for Purple Spirit, who was at the peak of the supreme peak. However, as the immeasurable tribulation approached, the whole world was about to turn into the chaotic state before the beginning of the world, and all living creatures were likely to perish. Purple Spirit might not have much energy and time to pay attention to this blue-robed young man. Therefore, after careful consideration, the hesitation in Xinyuanzi's eyes was gradually replaced by coldness. However, just as Xinyuanzi was about to kill him, Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly gave off a terrifying momentum of a breakthrough. Whether it was Xinyuanzi, the device spirit of the book, the Black Tortoise, or the remaining 36 experts of the Guardian families, they were all supreme experts and martial gods, so they had a deep understanding of the momentum of a breakthrough. When Yu Haoran broke through, the aura that rose from his body was clearly not at the level of a martial god. However, it was far more powerful than a peak third tribulation demigod. This caused everyone present to be puzzled. I see. Chapter 1787. In the Huayu mountain range, the book's artifact spirit cried out in horror, which immediately attracted the attention of everyone present. Xinyuanzi, who was also eager to know the answer, hurriedly asked, "Brother D, what's the matter with this guy?" After taking a deep breath and forcibly adjusting the shock in his heart, the book's artifact spirit looked at Yu Haoran with admiration in his eyes and introduced him in a complicated tone. "Brother Xinyuanzi, since ancient times, 9 has been the limit of the number, derived from the number of threes, derived from the 6 lines. Iyun, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. Thus, thousands of creatures were born in the world. Therefore, whether it's the martial arts realm of living creatures or the grade of the treasures derived from the auxiliary cultivation, the 9th grade is the limit." Brother D, get to the point. The book's artifact spirit's introduction was a fact recognized by the whole cultivation world. It was also the basic knowledge that every living creature needed to know when they set foot on the cultivation path. Therefore, Xinyuanzi, who was eager to know the answer, could not help but interrupt the book's artifact spirit's introduction and urge him. When the god race and the demon race ruled the primordial continent, the demon race's supreme ancestor, whose cultivation and alchemy wasn't any weaker than Supreme Laozi's demon heart in the Middle Ages, had accidentally refined a very special pill that helped one's mind. The book's artifact spirit, who was suddenly interrupted, rolled his eyes at Xinyuanzi with dissatisfaction and continued to introduce. According to Supreme Master Demon Heart's process of testing the elixir, he found that although the effect of the Mind State elixir was far beyond that of the 9th grade of the 2nd level, it did not reach the 1st grade of the 1st level. This completely broke the supreme iron rule since the establishment of alchemy, so he once boldly made a speculation. At this point, the book's artifact spirit's eyes swept across the edge of the mountain range, looking at Yusiki, Palace, the Black Tortoise, and the martial gods of the Guardian families, who were paying attention to him. Finally, he returned to Yu Haoran and continued. 9 is the limit, and 10 is the perfection. Therefore, whether it's the martial arts of living creatures or the auxiliary cultivation path, the grade of the realm should be the perfection of the 10th grade. That's impossible. Zhen Yuanzi quickly shook his head and refuted after hearing the introduction of the martial Dao realm. Ever since the creation of martial arts and auxiliary paths of cultivation, there have never been any records or rumors about the perfection of the 10th rank. Xinyuanzi pointed at Yu Haoran, who was gradually withdrawing his breakthrough momentum, and said with a trace of disdain in his eyes, "How could a kid with talent and potential that could barely be considered outstanding break the iron rule of countless realms?" Zhen Yuanzi's question was also the same as everyone at the edge of the mountain. Even the Black Tortoise, who had always suspected that Yu Haoran was the child of destiny, had a skeptical look in its eyes. After all, the complete 10th grade was just a rumor, a lie that had been verified by countless top geniuses. The Black Tortoise didn't believe that Yu Haoran could break the iron law of martial Dao, even with the protection of the fortune of the world and his innate talent for comprehension. Knowing how shocking his explanation was, the book spirit was not surprised at all by Zhen Yuanzi's doubt. He just reached out and took a spiritual leaf from the floating ginseng fruit tree, then flicked it directly at Yu Haoran's rising momentum. As a top spiritual fruit that could help ordinary creatures advance to the divine realm and help the divine realm grow stronger, the ginseng fruit tree had already broken through the 1st level and reached the peak of the 9th level of the 1st level. If Zhen Yuanzi hadn't erased the wisdom of the ginseng fruit tree, The ginseng fruit tree would have been an expert at the peak of the ninth level of the divine realm. Therefore, even an ordinary spiritual leaf on the ginseng fruit tree was as hard as a divine weapon. However, under the impact of the powerful momentum, countless small scratches quickly appeared on the surface of the spiritual leaf. However, no matter how strong the momentum was, it couldn't completely destroy the spiritual leaf. As the owner of the ginseng fruit tree, Zhen Yuanzi knew far more about the spiritual leaf than the book spirit. He also knew what kind of force would damage the spiritual leaf under the impact. Therefore, looking at the spiritual leaf that was constantly bobbing up and down in the powerful momentum and seeing the small cracks on the spiritual leaf, the doubt in Zhen Yuanzi's eyes was gradually replaced by shock. He began to believe the speculation of the book spirit. Since he decided to use the thunder tribulation formed by the soul-severing thunder to assist Emperor Wu in breaking through to the 10th level of the divine realm, Yu Haoran didn't care whether it would expose that he could break through to the 10th level of the divine realm. Therefore, when he heard the book spirit talk about the 10th level of the martial arts cultivation and the possibility that he could break the iron law since the establishment of martial arts, he didn't feel the slightest bit of panic. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the void above his head. A large amount of milky white energy was still washing down from the dark clouds. Recalling the powerful auxiliary effect of the milky white energy on cultivation, body, divine soul, and the power of law, Yu Haoran gradually became ambitious. However, if he wanted to use the reward of the thunder tribulation to make his ambition a reality, he needed an absolutely quiet and safe environment. Therefore, he now needed to know the strength gap between Thaling and Zhen Yuanzi to decide whether to continue to take risks to realize his ambition. Thaling, with your current strength, if you cooperate with the two magic swords Yuan-Tu and Avicii, or with the immortal eliminating sword and immortal trapping sword, how long can you resist the attack of Zhen Yuanzi's remnant soul? Yu Haoran, you're wrong. After a faint smile, Thaling gave a reply that made Yu Haoran feel confused. Thaling, what do you mean? Yu Haoran asked with a slight frown. Yu Haoran, you should ask me how long it will take me to defeat and kill Zhen Yuanzi's remnant soul, Thaling replied with strong confidence. Zhen Yuanzi's remnant soul was powerful enough to kill the divine beasts White Tiger and Blue Dragon, who were at the peak of the 6th level of the divine realm, with one move. In the face of such a powerful opponent, how could Thaling, whose cultivation was only at the peak of the 3rd tribulation demigod realm, have the confidence to defeat and kill Zhen Yuanzi, who was at the peak of the martial god realm? Therefore, after hearing Thaling's arrogant reply, Yu Haoran, who was still frowning, couldn't help but start to observe Thaling, who was standing in the sea of consciousness with a confident smile on his face and his hands behind his back. Emperor Wu's complete level 10 realm not only gave him the strength of a beginner in the martial god realm, but also greatly improved his eyesight. Chapter 1788. In the Huayu mountain range. According to the experience of strength improvement when breaking through, Yu Haoran speculated that Emperor Wu would have the strength of a beginner in the martial god realm in the complete level 10 realm. Now, since Thaling gave him a feeling that his strength was far superior to his, it meant that when he broke through to the complete level 10 realm of Emperor Wu, Thaling's spirit body had been greatly recovered, so that he broke through the shackles of the 3rd tribulation demigod realm and advanced to the immortal martial god realm. Yu Haoran, you're right. My spirit body has indeed recovered to the martial god realm. Although Yu Haoran didn't say anything, Thaling probably knew from the shock in his eyes that Yu Haoran had guessed his current state, so he took the initiative to explain without any concealment. As one of the 3 spiritual roots in the world, the ginseng fruit tree not only has the nature-defying effect of assisting creatures to advance to the martial god realm, but the life essence gathered at the root of the tree is also as powerful as the life and death soul-fixing fruit for recovering the spirit body of a celestial device. I took advantage of the opportunity when the spirit body of the Earth Book was attracted by the Thunder Tribulation to secretly set up a divine level soul-intercepting formation. Then I used a part of the aura of the destructive soul-intercepting thunder to block the detection of Zenyuanzi's remnant soul. Finally, I used the stolen life essence to restore the spirit body to the peak of the third-level martial god realm in a short time. Yu Haoran was sincerely happy that Thaling could use the life essence gathered at the root of the ginseng fruit tree to restore the strength of the peak of the third-level martial god realm. However, considering that Zenyuanzi probably had the strength of the peak of the ninth-level martial god realm, he still didn't understand how Thaling could defeat and kill Zenyuanzi's remnant soul. After hearing Yu Haoran's question, Thaling looked at Zenyuanzi, whose eyes were full of shock through the barrier of the sea of consciousness space, and asked with a smile, "Yu Haoran, do you think that Zenyuanzi easily killed the blue dragon and the white tiger because of the great strength of his remnant soul? Isn't that the case?" Yu Haoran asked in confusion. "Yu Haoran, if I tell you clearly now that the real strength of Zenyuanzi's remnant soul is only at the beginning of the martial god realm, I don't know whether you will believe it or not." He did not directly answer Yu Haoran's question, but still asked with a smile, "I don't believe it." Yu Haoran immediately shook his head. The blue dragon and the white tiger, who were the direct descendants of the ancient guardian divine beasts and had reached the peak of the sixth level of the divine realm, not only did they possess strength comparable to the peak of the seventh level of the martial god realm, but their powerful physiques also allowed them to possess a powerful defense comparable to a divine realm upper-grade magic weapon. Even though Zenyuanzi was a supreme existence in the supreme master realm, and his use of power was far stronger than that of the blue dragon and the white tiger, it was absolutely impossible for him to easily kill two divine beasts with the strength of the peak of the seventh level of the martial god realm and the defense of a divine realm upper-grade magic weapon. Yu Haoran, since you have successfully advanced to the complete level 10 of the Emperor Wu realm, you will soon be able to break through to the immortal martial god realm. Then I will now explain to you in detail the difference between the martial god realm and the Emperor Wu realm. As the cultivation of the divine soul body was restored to the martial god realm, many secret methods and methods that could not be used before could now be easily used. Therefore, before explaining the characteristics of the martial god realm and the Emperor Wu realm in detail, Thaling mobilized the space-time energy in the victor and set up an independent space with time acceleration between him and Yu Haoran. In this way, the time spent on the explanation would not affect Yu Haoran's absorption of the milky white energy from the Thunder Tribulation reward, nor would it arouse the suspicion of Zenyuanzi and the book device spirit. After the independent space with time acceleration was set up, Thaling began to explain in detail the different levels of power use between the Emperor Wu realm and the martial god realm. Although the breakthrough of the Emperor Wu realm was also related to the power of law that he had comprehended in the real application process, the grade of his physical body, the use of his yuan qi and soul power far exceeded the power of law. The reason was that the power of law integrated into the physical body, whether it was the speed of mobilizing or the strength that could be exerted, was far less powerful than the power of the physical body, yuan qi and soul power combined with the high-grade martial arts. However, after his cultivation had advanced to the martial god realm, the application of the power of law had undergone earth-shaking changes. Although the grade and quality of the physical body of the martial god realm had changed, the power of the divine power and soul power was far more powerful than that of the Emperor Wu realm. The power of law that had advanced to the profound mystery could not only be better integrated into the grade of the physical body, divine power and soul power, but also the amplification of martial arts had reached an unimaginable height. Therefore, the grade of the physical body, divine power and soul power were only a small part of the factors that could really affect the difference between the cultivation and strength of the martial god realm experts. The strength of the power of law and the depth of the understanding of the profound mystery of the laws were the key. Although the cultivation of Zenyuanzi's remnant soul was only at the beginning of the martial god realm, the power of law that he had comprehended and the profound mystery of the laws was far beyond that of the blue dragon and the white tiger. This was also the real reason why Thaling's godly soul body was not inferior to Xinyuanzi's remnant soul after it had recovered to the martial god realm. After all, as a primordial treasure born in the chaos, the power of law that Thaling could mobilize and the understanding of the profound mystery of the laws was also far beyond that of Xinyuanzi's remnant soul. Thaling's detailed introduction of Emperor Wu's realm and the power of the martial god realm made Yu Haoran feel completely relieved, and at the same time, his thoughts about ambition also changed. Originally, according to his own understanding of the martial god realm, the process of transforming Yuan Qi into divine power was the key to improving the strength of the martial god realm. Therefore, he planned to use the milky white energy rewarded by the Thunder Tribulation to fully improve the quality of the Yuan Qi in his Dantian and strive to be the first to achieve the advancement of Yuan Qi before his cultivation broke through to the martial god realm. Now that he knew that the profound mystery of the laws had a decisive effect on the strength of the martial god realm, the reward of the Thunder Tribulation, which could also improve the power of law, was the focus of his next cultivation. Taking a deep breath, Yu Haoran signaled Thaling to withdraw the independent space where time was accelerated and began to use the milky white energy to fully assist his comprehension of the power of law, striving to master the profound mystery of the power of law of life and death as soon as possible. As Yu Haoran withdrew the powerful momentum of his breakthrough, the spiritual leaf floating in the air also fell to the ground. Xinyuanzi reached out his hand and sucked at the spiritual leaf that had fallen to the ground. The spiritual leaf instantly appeared in his hand. Chapter 1789. In the Huayu mountain range, after experiencing the ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the near ancient times, the accumulated destructive power finally triggered the immeasurable calamity. It was not only the calamity of life and death for countless creatures, but also the only hope for supreme masters to reach the immortal realm. What was the immortal realm? Eternal life, eternal immortality, a unique existence. If what the book's device spirit guessed was true, then the young man in blue would definitely be one of his strongest opponents to reach the immortal realm in the future. He deliberately hid the fact that he had reached the Supreme Master Realm and spent a lot of effort to refine the god's graveyard that could be continuously promoted and buried in the immeasurable calamity in the future. He hid in the endless void and intercepted all the threatening opponents. Xinyuanzi did all this to reach the immortal realm. He could not tolerate the appearance of a monster like Yu Haoran, who could break the Iron Rule. Therefore, his hesitation was gradually replaced by determination. He secretly began to overdraw all the power of his divine soul. He planned to kill this monster, who could threaten him to reach the immortal realm in the future, the moment the reward of the Thunder Tribulation disappeared. As for whether he would suffer the revenge of the time and space victor, as long as he continued to hide in the endless void before the immeasurable calamity broke out, Purple Spirit could do nothing to him. Because Xinyuanzi's real strength had reached the Supreme Master Realm, his use of power and control of his own aura had reached a perfect level. Therefore, not only did the book's device spirit not notice that Xinyuanzi was overdrawing the power of his remnant soul, but even Thaling, who had been vigilant, did not notice it. Time passed by second. As the black clouds in the mountain ranges void, the milky white energy that washed down gradually decreased, and Yu Haoran's aura became more and more mysterious. It meant that his cultivation and strength had changed dramatically through the reward of the Thunder Tribulation, which made Xinyuanzi's remnant soul want to kill him more and more. Thaling, I don't know why, but I have a strong sense of uneasiness in my heart. With the help of the reward of the Thunder Tribulation, Yu Haoran had not yet comprehended the mystery of the power of law, but his use of the power of law of life and death was dozens of times better than before. It was precisely because of the improvement in the laws of life and death that his senses towards life and death had become sharper. He could vaguely sense an aura of death approaching him. After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Thaling immediately used a secret technique to check his surroundings, but he did not find anything out of the ordinary. Then, he observed Zheng Yunzi's remnant soul again and found nothing out of the ordinary. He couldn't help but frown. "You, Howren, can you trace the source of your uneasiness?" "No." While shaking his head and replying, Yu Howren suggested with a hint of worry in his eyes. "Thowling, can you use the space-time energy of Victor's origin to send my second doppelganger to the outskirts of the mountain range? No matter where the source of the danger came from, as long as the two clones could reach a safe area in advance, then he would have the confidence and certainty to deal with the danger." "No." But to Yu Howren's disappointment, Thowling shook his head and gave an answer that he couldn't do it. "Yu Howren, the protection formed by the reward of the Thunder Tribulation, while ensuring that you can smoothly absorb the milky white energy, will also restrict many secret techniques that can save your life. With my current strength and means, I can't send my second doppelganger out of the mountain range quietly for the time being. Then what should I do?" As the milky white energy in the black clouds rapidly decreased, the uneasiness in his heart became more and more intense. Moreover, this increasing sense of insecurity made Yu Howren gradually feel a sense of fear in his heart. "Yu Howren, immediately give up the remaining Thunder Tribulation rewards and prepare to defend with all your strength." After more than 3 years together, Thowling had rarely seen Yu Howren so panicked. This showed that not only was the sense of uneasiness in his heart very strong, but it had also seriously affected his newly promoted state of mind cultivation. Since he couldn't use the method of moving his main body and doppelganger to avoid the source of the danger, then he should prepare to defend against the danger with all his strength and try his best to reduce the damage caused by the source of the danger. "Thowling, what should I do next?" Although giving up the remaining Thunder Tribulation rewards would affect his comprehension of the profound mysteries of the laws of life and death, compared to his own safety, the rewards of the Thunder Tribulation were insignificant. So, while nodding in agreement to Thowling's suggestion, Yu Howren wanted to know what kind of defense he should set up to resist the influence of the uneasiness in his heart. Yu Howren, while activating the defense of the ancestral wizard's body, use the secret refining method I taught you to temporarily merge the Rui Bell into your body. Leave the rest of the defense to me. After thinking for a while, Thowling instructed. After Yu Howren merged the Rui Bell into the activated ancestral wizard's body, Thowling immediately took out the green lotus formation flag, the floating flame formation flag, the white cloud formation flag, and 2 godly defense formation flags from the victor. Then, he used the space-time energy of the victor's origin and quietly set up a godly defense formation around Yu Howren. "Yu Howren, do you still feel uneasy in your heart?" After the godly defense formation was successfully set up, Thowling asked cautiously. "Yes, but it's not as strong as before." After carefully feeling it, Yu Howren slightly frowned and stood up to reply. After receiving Yu Howren's reply, Thowling continued to think for a while, and then took out the 36 formation flags from the victor, which were used to intercept the ginseng fruit tree's roots and gather the life essence, and then solemnly reminded him, "Yu Howren, next I'm going to integrate the 36 formation flags into the important acupoints in your body, and then set up a defense formation that can instantly transfer the attack power. The process of setting up the formation may be a little painful, and I hope you can bear the pain and not make a sound." "Thowling, I know you can do it." Taking a deep breath, Yu Howren nodded. The formation flags, which contained space-time energy, were forcibly transferred to the acupoints in his body. The pain caused by the formation flags was far from as easy as Thowling had said. Fortunately, the countless painful experiences in his previous life and this life had made him gradually numb to the feeling of pain. Therefore, he could bear the pain without changing his expression. Xinyuanzi and the device spirit of the book did not notice the double impact on the body and divine soul. Chapter 1790. In the Huayu Mountain Range. The pagoda spirit asked with a hint of nervousness after using the 36 seals to connect with the 36 divine state formation flags in the meridians and successfully set up a formation that could instantly shift the attack power. "Yu Howren, do you still feel uneasy in your heart?" Yes, but it's too weak to affect my state of mind. Yu Haoran felt it carefully and finally relaxed his eyebrows and replied, That's good. After receiving Yu Haoran's reply, Thowling breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he looked through the barrier of the sea of consciousness and saw Xinyuanzi, who was calm. A terrifying cold light flashed in his eyes. The double defense of the Ancestor Sorcerer's body and the Wishful Bell, the double defense formation set up by 3 innate 5 elements formation flags and 36 formation flags, could basically resist the attack of an expert at the peak of the 9th level of the Martial God Realm. In this case, Yu Haoran still could not completely eliminate the uneasiness in his heart, which was enough to prove that the source of the uneasiness was probably Xinyuanzi. Because only Xinyuanzi had comprehended and mastered the mystery of the law, he had the strength that was infinitely close to the peak of the 9th level of the Martial God Realm. Only Xinyuanzi had a deep understanding of the mystery of the law, which enabled him to break through the 4 layers of defense in an instant. Thinking of this, Thowling immediately took out the Yuantis sword and the Avicii sword from the victor, and then transferred the mystery of the law that he could use into the 2 magic swords. He intended to teach Xinyuanzi, who was hiding in the Endless Hollow, a lesson by killing the remnant soul, and let him know that some people could never be provoked easily. As the milky white energy in the black clouds stopped rushing down, the device spirit, who already had other thoughts, stepped forward to congratulate Yu Haoran for successfully breaking the iron rule of the realm. Xinyuanzi, who looked as calm as water, immediately raised his arm and pointed at Yu Haoran with a strong cyan light in his eyes. Die! With the emotionless word death, Xinyuanzi's body quickly became illusory. Along with the cold and indifferent word death, a terrifying energy that terrified countless creatures within a radius of millions of kilometers shot out from Xinyuanzi's finger and instantly appeared in front of Yu Haoran across the distance of time and space. Boom! In the face of Xinyuanzi's attack of the occult law, which was performed by exhausting all of his remnant soul, the defense formed by the body of Ancestor Sorcerer and the Wishful Bell only lasted for less than half a second before it was easily broken. The defensive array set up by 3 innate 5 elements array flags and 2 deity realm array flags only lasted for less than a second before it was destroyed by the power of the laws. Fortunately, Thowling finally used his acupoints and 36 array flags to set up a defensive array that could instantly transfer the attack power, and finally succeeded in resisting Xinyuanzi's fatal attack. Taking advantage of the gap when the last defensive array was resisting Xinyuanzi's attack, Yu Haoran, who quickly got up, directly took out the Immortal Eliminating Sword and the Immortal Trapping Sword for Victor. Then, using the powerful strength he had just obtained, he fully activated the power of the 2 swords and fiercely slashed at Xinyuanzi, whose body was getting dimmer and dimmer. Love Extinguisher, World and Sleeve. Because of the oppression of the Thunder Tribulation, Yusiki and Palace, who had retreated 10,000 meters away from the mountain, did not hesitate to use their strongest means when they saw Xinyuanzi suddenly attacking them. They hoped that by attacking Xinyuanzi's means, they could relieve Yu Haoran's fatal attack. Yusiki and the Scarlet Loath's seemingly overconfident attacks surprised the Black Tortoise and Zhongli Swamp. They also felt a trace of admiration in their hearts. Yusiki's and Palace's attacks had no effect on Xinyuanzi at all. He could basically ignore them. With Yu Haoran's strength that had just reached the Martial God Realm, even though his attacks with the help of the Immortal Ending Sword and the Immortal Trapping Sword posed a certain threat, he only needed to wave his hand to nullify the attacks of the 2 sword intents. The only thing that could make Xinyuanzi feel a strong and fatal threat was the attack that was hidden in the dark. Thinking that the device spirit of the Earth Book had once mentioned that the blue-robed young man in front of him was very likely to be protected by the device spirit of the time and Space Victor, Xinyuanzi's remnant soul suddenly became nervous. Boom! Just as Yu Haoran's sword attack with the Immortal Eliminating Sword and the Immortal Trapping Sword was easily defeated by Xinyuanzi's Mystery of the Law, 2 red sword rays appeared out of nowhere and slashed directly at Xinyuanzi's forehead. The device spirit of the Earth Book, who already knew Xinyuanzi's final choice, couldn't help but fall into deep thought when Xinyuanzi overdrew all his soul power to attack Yu Haoran with his strongest move. After countless years of knowing and guarding each other, he and Xinyuanzi had long been a good teacher and helpful friend. At the same time, Xinyuanzi was also the strongest help for him to obtain the Mark of Chaos with the help of the immeasurable tribulation in the future and thus become a Khanate cardinal treasure. However, Yu Haoran, who could break the iron rule of the realm that had been maintained for countless years, and who was likely to be protected by Lord Violet's spirit, made him afraid and unwilling to offend him. Therefore, in the face of the fierce battle between Xinyuanzi and Yu Haoran, he didn't know for a moment whether he should help Xinyuanzi or choose to stand by and do nothing. However, when he saw the two red sword rays appear out of nowhere and attack the sea of consciousness of Xinyuanzi's remnant soul, the device spirit of the Earth Book, who had known each other for countless years, quickly made a decision. Without the slightest hesitation, he immediately mobilized the power of the ley lines that had been stored in the graveyard for countless years, and then combined it with the overdraft of 1/3 of his origin energy, instantly formed an absolute defense above Xinyuanzi's head to help him resist the attack of the two red sword rays. With the help of the formation that could transfer the attack power in an instant, Yu Haoran successfully offset the fatal attack that Xinyuanzi had overdrafted his soul power at the cost of a slight injury. Looking at the device spirit of the Earth Book who had helped Xinyuanzi, Yu Haoran mobilized all his strength without the slightest hesitation and continued to cooperate with the immortal eliminating sword and the immortal trapping sword to perform powerful sword techniques to directly attack the body of the device spirit of the Earth Book. At the same time, Usiki and Pallas, who had rushed to the ninth grave, performed their strongest attacks at the same time, cooperating with Yu Haoran to attack the body of the device spirit of the Earth Book. Originally, with the strength and defense of the device spirit of the Earth Book, he could basically ignore the attacks of Usiki and Pallas, just like Xinyuanzi's remnant soul. However, after overdrafting 1/3 of his origin energy twice, his strength and defense were reduced by at least 70%. At this moment, the device spirit of the Earth Book was only at the early stage of the martial god realm, and his body's defense was barely at the low grade of the divine realm. The strongest attacks that Usiki and Pallas performed in anger were infinitely close to the early stage of the martial god realm. Boom! Boom! Chapter 1791. In the Huayu Mountains, Usiki's and Pallas's strongest attacks were enough to threaten the book's device spirit's safety. Then, Yu Haoran's strongest attack, combined with the immortal eliminating sword and the immortal trapping sword, was powerful enough to seriously injure the book's device, spirit, and body. Therefore, the weapon spirit of the Earth Book, who had been forced back a step by Usiki and the Scarlet Loathe, sensed the terrifying power contained in Yu Haoran's two streaks of sword chi that were enough to severely injure itself and its main body. At the same time, its expression changed, and it had no choice but to immediately withdraw the power of the ley line and the origin energy that it had used to block the two streaks of red sword chi. Originally, even if he mobilized all the power of the ley line stored in the tomb, and then overdrew 1/3 of the origin energy, it would be very difficult to resist the two red sword lights that contained the mystery of Phalanx Law. Now, after extracting part of the power of the ley lines and the origin energy, the two red sword lights quickly broke the defense set up by the book's device spirit. At the same time, one red sword light pierced through Xinyuanzi's remnant soul, while the other red sword light, wrapped in a trace of the remnant soul's aura, directly pierced through the void of the mountains, and then went straight to the distant, endless void. At the same time, the book's device spirit, who had withdrawn part of the power of the ley lines and the origin energy, barely resisted the two sharp swordsmanship that Yu Haoran used with the help of the immortal eliminating sword and the immortal trapping sword. However, when he saw Yu Haoran, who was holding the immortal eliminating sword and the immortal trapping sword, intending to continue to use powerful swordsmanship, he hurriedly raised his hand and asked for help. "Young friend, please wait, listen to me," The attack just now could threaten the book's device spirit because he had mobilized the power of the ley lines and overdrawn the origin energy. Most of them were used to resist the swordsmanship that Thaling used with the help of the Yuan-Tu sword and the Avicii sword to protect Xinyuanzi's remnant soul. Now that Xinyuanzi's remnant soul had been destroyed, the book's device spirit, who had no object to protect, could exert the strength and defense of a top innate spiritual treasure. With the strength of the complete 10th level Emperor Wu, he was not a match for the book's device spirit for the time being. Therefore, after hearing the request of the book's device spirit, Yu Haoran quickly stopped the swordsmanship he was performing and looked at him coldly. Young friend, the sneak attack just now was his own decision. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me, and I have no intention of harming you. At the same time, the book's device spirit to express himself, to express his attitude. At the same time. I have no ill intentions to harm to be. Yu Haoran couldn't help but ask with a sneer after hearing the artifact spirit statement. Why? Device's device spirit, device, S to be attacked. Young friend, we have known each other since the Middle Ancient times, and then, after countless years of companionship, Brother Xinyuanzi and I have become good teachers and helpful friends. In the face of Yu Haoran's sneering question, the book's device spirit followed his heart and explained. Therefore, when Brother Xinyuanzi's remnant soul was facing a life and death crisis, I had to help him. Since you have to help as a good teacher and helpful friend, then the endless hatred between you and Xinyuanzi gives me a reason to deal with you. The book's device spirit replied truthfully. Although Yu Haoran sincerely admired it, in order to get enough benefits, he had to continue to pretend to be tough. Young friend, don't forget, I don't need to continue to protect Brother Xinyuanzi's remnant soul, and I am no longer someone you can deal with. In the face of Yu Haoran's tough attitude, the book's device spirit threatened him confidently. But don't forget, the red sword light that doesn't need to continue to attack Xinyuanzi's remnant soul is also not something you can resist. In the face of the book's device spirit's threat, Yu Haoran also threatened it with strong confidence. Thinking of the special dharma contained in the two red sword lights that killed Xinyuanzi, the book's device spirit's face suddenly changed. At the same time, it did not know how to fight back against Yu Haoran's threat. Book's device spirit, if you want to save your life and continue to guard this special tomb, then you have to agree to my 3 conditions. Seeing that the threat was almost over, Yu Haoran calmly reminded it. Okay, please say it. The book's device spirit had used the power of the earth veins stored in the tomb several times, and had overdrawn its origin energy twice in a row, so it was difficult for it to recover its strength at the peak of the 9th level of the martial god realm in a short time. Therefore, it could not resist the red sword light that contained the special dharma. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's conditions, the book's device spirit hurriedly nodded. The first condition, except for the primordial spiritual treasure golden dragon scissors that I have already obtained, the remaining primordial spiritual treasures dragon binding rope and flying smoke sword will also belong to me. After raising a finger, Yu Haoran began to put forward his conditions. Although the offensive primordial spiritual treasures were very precious, they could not be compared with his own safety. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's first condition, the book's device spirit nodded and agreed without hesitation. No problem. The second condition is to remove the 2 seals on fellow Taoist Qing Feng, which will free him from the restraint of the puppet skill in the tomb. Yu Haoran was not surprised that the book's device spirit agreed readily. He raised his second finger and continued. In the face of Yu Haoran's second condition, the book's device spirit suddenly became hesitant. Because Qing Feng was not only Xinyuanzi's personal disciple and had the potential to become a supreme master, but he was also a device spirit that was specially cultivated after the tomb was upgraded. He was the most important chess piece in Xinyuanzi's plan, and an important part that could not be easily made mistakes. Yu Haoran was also not surprised by the book's device spirit's hesitation. His indifferent expression showed that he could not change his attitude. Artifact Spirit of the Earth Book, when fellow Taoist Qing Feng welcomed me into the Taoist temple and gave me a ginseng fruit, I promised him that I would give him a chance to be reborn. I hope you won't make me break my promise. All right. Yu Haoran's detailed explanation made the book's device spirit understand that he would never give in. At the same time, considering the replaceability of the tomb's device spirit and his own safety, the book's device spirit finally nodded and agreed to Yu Haoran's second condition. The third condition is that I want to take away the ginseng fruit tree. Chapter 1792. In the Huayu mountain range. No. Faced with Yu Haoran's request to take away the ginseng fruit tree, the device spirit shook its head and refused without hesitation. As one of the 3 spiritual roots in the world, the ginseng fruit tree not only had the nature-defying effect of assisting living creatures to advance to the martial god realm, but also could refine and condense the purity of the earth vein's power, which could help him advance to the half-tribulation sovereign realm faster. More importantly, the ginseng fruit tree was the cornerstone of whether the Jinyuan graveyard could have the ability to bury a martial god expert in the future. It was also the foundation of whether Xinyuanzi could advance to the immortal realm. Otherwise, Xinyuanzi's painstaking efforts, which had been planned for countless years, would be completely destroyed. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Faced with the firm refusal of the device spirit, Yu Haoran quickly took out the immortal eliminating sword and the immortal trapping sword, and then threatened it with murderous intent. At the same time, the Thowling in the Sea of Consciousness space also integrated the Dharma occult that it could use into the primordial massacre sword and the Avicii divine sword, and then activated 2 red sword lights to increase the threat of Yu Haoran. Little friend, don't be impulsive. We can talk about it. Yu Haoran's sudden action of taking out the immortal eliminating sword and the immortal trapping sword made the device spirit nervous, especially when it saw the 2 red sword lights above Yu Haoran's head. Its expression changed and it begged. Device spirit, either let me take away the ginseng fruit tree or bear my thunderous attack. Looking at the device spirit, whose eyes flashed with panic, Yu Haoran was secretly happy, but his face was still full of murderous intent. Little friend, as long as you don't take away the ginseng fruit tree, I can promise you anything. Shifting its gaze from the 2 red sword lights to Yu Haoran, the artifact spirit of the Earth Book gave its greatest promise. This, faced with the promise of the device spirit, Yu Haoran pretended to be very tempted and began to ponder. After pondering for nearly 5 minutes, Yu Haoran raised his head and looked at the ginseng fruit tree in front of him. Looking at the ginseng fruit that looked like a baby, his eyes revealed a hint of unwillingness. 29 ginseng fruits and 108 spiritual leaves on the ginseng fruit tree. This is my bottom line. The 29 ginseng fruits were part of his plan, and the 108 spirit leaves were added at the last minute by Thowling. As for the purpose of asking for the 108 spirit leaves, Thowling didn't reveal it, and he didn't ask too much. No problem. After hearing that Yu Haoran was willing to change the conditions, the artifact spirit couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief and quickly nodded in agreement. Although the ginseng fruit contained pure connate spirit qi and the aura of the origin of laws, which could help Emperor Wu and a demigod expert directly break through to the martial god realm, the ginseng fruit actually didn't have much of an effect on the Earth Book's weapon spirit and Jinyuan's tomb. What's more, it took 3,000 years to bloom, 3,000 years to bear fruit, and another 3,000 years to mature. For the Earth Book's weapon spirit, who had an immortal lifespan, it was just the time for a deep level of closed-door cultivation. After getting the agreement of the Earth Book's weapon spirit, Yu Haoran also secretly let out a sigh of relief. He quickly put away the celestial extinguishing sword and the celestial trapping sword, then took out the jade box that he had prepared in advance from his storage ring. He wrapped it in yuan qi and sent it to the Earth Book's weapon spirit. Earth Book's weapon spirit, fulfill the conditions you promised. Got it. The Earth Book's weapon spirit didn't say anything else. It nodded and directly took out a pair of gloves made of pure gold. Then it picked all 29 ginseng fruits on the ginseng fruit tree and put them one by one into the jade box floating in front of it. After putting away the jade box containing the ginseng fruits and the storage bag containing the 108 spirit leaves, Yu Haoran continued to look straight at the Earth Book's weapon spirit. Young friend, please wait a moment. Knowing the reason why Yu Haoran continued to stare at it, the Earth Book's weapon spirit nodded and immediately began to condense imprints with its 10 fingers. When the 9 imprints were all integrated into the tomb, Qing Feng and Mingyu, who were dressed in green robes, appeared in tomb number 9. When they saw Yu Haoran with a faint smile on his face, Qing Feng, who had been paying attention to the changes in the tomb, suddenly became excited. Mingyu, on the other hand, was a little sluggish and didn't have any reaction. Release. When Qing Feng and Mingyu appeared in tomb number 9, the Earth Book's weapon spirit immediately continued to condense 18 imprints and imprinted all of them on Qing Feng's body. When all 18 imprints were integrated into Qing Feng's puppet body, Qing Feng's eyes, which were originally full of spirituality, immediately became dull like the bright moon. But then, from the head of Qing Feng's puppet, a remnant soul, whose body was slightly faint but had an extremely powerful aura, quickly emerged. The cultivation of the peak of the 9th level martial god. After seeing Qing Feng's remnant soul emerge from the puppet's head, Thaling reminded with a slight hint of surprise. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran's eyes also flashed with a hint of joy. With the help of the alchemy cultivation insights left by Zenyuanzi in the Scriptures Pavilion, he already knew how to reach the realm of alchemy god in a short time. As long as he successfully reached the realm of alchemy god, with his talent in alchemy and the assistance of the nothingness pill condensation technique, he had at least an 80% chance of refining a first-grade rank 1 soul accumulation pill. At that time, with the help of the rebirth opportunity, there would be a real peak divine spirit expert in the prince's mansion, and he would be able to ignore the threat of the Great Han Empire. The remnant soul quickly condensed into Qing Feng's appearance, and then cupped his fists and thanked Yu Haoran. Brother, thank you. Brother, don't mention it. I'm just fulfilling my promise. With a gentle smile on his face, Yu Haoran waved his hand to indicate that Qing Feng did not have to be polite. Then, he took out a turquoise gourd from his storage ring and reminded him with a solemn expression. Brother Qing Feng, without the puppet's body and the energy provided by the tomb, I'm afraid your remnant soul won't be able to hold on for too long. If you believe me, then please temporarily stay in this gourd that can store spiritual liquid. Brother Yu, I believe you. Without the slightest hesitation, Qing Feng nodded and directly shrank his remnant soul's body into the gourd magic artifact. After putting away the turquoise gourd, Yu Haoran looked at Jinyuan's tomb again, and then nodded to Yusiki and Palace. Sister, Brother Qi, let's go back to the prince's mansion. However, just as he flew to the edge of the mountain range and planned to return to the prince's mansion by tearing the void, the black tortoise, who was standing at the edge of the mountain range, suddenly cupped his fists and greeted him. Chapter 1793. At the edge of the Huayu mountain range, Yu Haoran couldn't help but frown when he saw the black tortoise standing at the edge of the mountain range. Whether it was the intense conflict with the Blue Dragon clan and the White Tiger clan, the Vermilion Bird's attempt to steal the Floating Flames formation flag while he was undergoing his tribulation, or the Black Tortoise clan's formation sect that was at the pinnacle of formations when he was sealing off the ancient god and demon clans, Zhou Bao had always harbored deep enmity and fear towards the 4 Guardian clans. Therefore, he didn't want to have too much contact with the Guardian clans unless he had an absolute advantage. Therefore, he didn't want to respond to the Black Tortoise that had greeted him. When the Black Tortoise saw Yu Haoran's frown, it could guess that Yu Haoran was hostile towards the Guardian clans. It tried its best to display a friendly attitude as it flew to Yu Haoran and cupped its claws in greeting. Xian Xiong greets the Formation Emperor Yu. Junior greets Senior Xian Xiong. According to Yu Haoran's narrow-minded personality, he wouldn't have treated the 4 Guardian clans nicely since he was filled with deep enmity and fear towards them. Therefore, when he was about to mock and ridicule the black tortoise, the Thowling in his consciousness suddenly told him to treat the black tortoise with respect. The Thowling's reason for treating Zhou Bao with respect was that the black tortoise didn't take advantage of the situation when Zhou Bao was facing the soul-severing, lightning tribulation with all his might. Instead, it stopped the blue dragon, the white tiger, and the vermilion bird from trying to disrupt Zhou Bao's tribulation. Therefore, Zhou Bao had to treat the black tortoise with respect. Yu Haoran's return of the black tortoise's greeting as a junior caused Xian Xiong to inwardly heave a sigh of relief. Formation Emperor Yu, can we talk alone for a moment? Senior Xian Xiong, this is my sister and this is my brother. They're not outsiders. Although he didn't outright refuse Xian Xiong's request, Yu Haoran had already expressed his attitude by introducing Yusiki and Palace. All right then, seeing that Yu Haoran didn't want to avoid Yusiki and Palace, Xian Xiong didn't insist and nodded. Then he carefully took out a white stone the size of a goose egg and the shape of a heart from the independent space he opened up. He smiled and gave it to Yu Haoran. Formation Emperor Yu, this milky white stone is called the Heaven's Secret Stone. It is a top-notch treasure that can greatly increase one's perception and potential. Consider it a gift for our first meeting. As the saying goes, one who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions. Putting aside the irreconcilable enmity between Yu Haoran and the four guardian clans, how could Yu Haoran not be on guard when Xian Xiong gave him such a precious gift when they had just met? As a result, he did not reach out to take the milky white stone from Xian Xiong. Thowling was puzzled when he saw the heart-like milky white stone in Xian Xiong's sea of consciousness. This was because he could vaguely sense that the milky white stone in front of him wasn't the Heaven's Secret Stone that Xian Xiong had just mentioned. Instead, it seemed like a legendary treasure, a special treasure that was inextricably linked to the laws of destiny. As a result, he didn't step forward to remind Yu Haoran of his refusal to accept the Heaven's Secret Stone. Formation Emperor Yu, rather than saying that this Heaven's Secret Stone is a gift from the Black Tortoise clan, it would be better to say that it is an apology gift from the Black Tortoise clan. Although a trace of disappointment flashed across Xian Xiong's eyes when he saw Yu Haoran's refusal to accept the Heaven's Secret Stone, he wasn't too surprised. After all, Yu Haoran had always maintained a deep enmity towards the Guardian clans due to the various unpleasant events that had happened in the past. Given Xian Xiong's cautious character, how could he easily accept a precious gift from him? However, the Heaven's Secret Stone was a bargaining chip that Xian Xiong used to ease the enmity between them. At the same time, it was also an important method that he used to verify his conjectures. Therefore, in order to make Yu Haoran accept the Heaven's Secret Stone willingly, Xian Xiong could only use the method of betraying the Guardian clan's interest to eliminate the enmity in his heart. Formation Emperor Yu, I wonder if you still remember how you and the four demigod-level elders of the Guardian clans sealed the ancient god and demon clans together some time ago. Xian Xiong asked with a serious expression after he stopped smiling kindly. I remember quite a bit. Yu Haoran nodded in reply. Formation Emperor Yu, I'm really sorry. After receiving Yu Haoran's nod in reply, Xian Xiong cupped his hands and explained in a guilty tone. Back then, when we were resealing the ancient god and demon clans, the four demigod-level elders of the Guardian clans had secretly set up some unspeakable means that could have harmed you and your loved ones. The self-destruct formation hidden in the core of the four formation flags. After hearing Xian Xiong mention the sinister means that the Guardian clans had secretly set up to seal the ancient god and demon clans, Yu Haoran immediately pointed out with a gloomy expression. You already know about it. Yu Haoran's accurate accusation caused Xian Xiong's mind to be violently shaken. His body uncontrollably took 7 steps back as he cried out in shock. That's right. When Yu Haoran saw that Xian Xiong's mind had been greatly impacted and a hint of confusion appeared in his eyes, a thought immediately flashed through his mind. Not only did he immediately nod in confirmation, but he also further explained his understanding of the Guardian clan's methods. Not only do I know about the self-destruct formation hidden in the 4 formation flags, but I can also deduce in detail through the self-destruct formation. In at most 2 months, the self-destruct formation will completely destroy the solar lunar star formation used to seal the ancient god and demon clans by detonating the 4 formation flags. The ancient god and demon clans will once again descend upon the Tianxin continent. Yu Haoran's more detailed explanation of the clan's secret means caused Xian Xiong's mind to be even more shaken. Not only did his body gradually begin to tremble, but his mind also began to become absent-minded. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yu Haoran suddenly asked loudly, "Xian Xiong, why did you give Yu Haoran the precious divine fate stone?" Xian Xiong, who had fallen into a trance, instinctively replied in the face of Yu Haoran's loud question. "I wanted to use the divine fate stone to resolve the accumulated hatred between Yu Haoran and the Black Tortoise clan. At the same time, I wanted to verify one of my conjectures." Xian Xiong's instinctive and truthful answer caused a trace of doubt to appear in Yu Haoran's eyes. He continued to ask loudly, "Xian Xiong, what kind of conjecture do you want to verify? I suspect that Yu Haoran is very likely to be, as a divine beast at the peak of the 6th level of the God Realm, as well as a top expert proficient in Formula Dao. Xian Xiong's powerful state of mind allowed him to quickly wake up from his trance and retract his true intentions that were about to be exposed. Chapter 1794. At the border of the Huayu mountain range. Sigh. Yu Haoran could not help but sigh in disappointment when he saw that Xian Xiong, who had quickly woken up from his trance, did not reveal his true intention of gifting the Heaven's Fate Stone. Fortunately, he knew that Xian Xiong had no ill intentions towards him. His cold expression softened significantly. "Formation Emperor Yu, good move." Although he did not reveal his true intentions in the end, he recalled how Yu Haoran had accurately discovered his absent-minded state and made use of it to obtain a secret. Xian Xiong felt a lingering fear, but at the same time, he couldn't help but admire his keen observation skills and intelligence. "I had no choice. I hope Senior Xian Xiong can forgive me." Since Yu Haoran already knew that Xian Xiong didn't have any ill intentions towards him, he felt a little embarrassed for launching an attack while he was distracted. Therefore, he hurriedly cupped his fist and apologized to Xian Xiong when he heard Xian Xiong's compliment. Then, Yu Haoran reached out to take the divine fate stone that Xian Xiong had been holding tightly, hoping to express his goodwill. "Yu Haoran, stop it now." Just as Yu Haoran's finger was about to touch the divine fate stone, Thaling, who had found out about the divine fate stone's origin through a secret technique, warned Yu Haoran immediately. Unfortunately, Yu Haoran no longer had any hostility or wariness towards Xian Xiong, so he reached out to grab the Heaven's Fate Stone rather quickly. Therefore, even though he heard Thaling's anxious warning, his finger had already touched the divine fate stone. The moment his index and middle fingers touched the divine fate stone, the divine fate stone instantly emitted a blinding, milky white light. The rich, milky white light forced Xian Xiong, Yusiki, and Palace back while quickly enveloping Yu Haoran. Looks like my conjecture was right. Yu Haoran is really the chosen one. When Xian Xiong saw Yu Haoran completely enveloped by the milky white light, his body could not help but tremble violently due to his overly agitated emotions. His heart roared like a raging sea. However, when 2 murderous auras locked onto his sea of consciousness at the same time, Xian Xiong, who had quickly calmed down, immediately raised his head and saw Yusiki and the scarlet loathing beast pointing their swords at him with murderous auras. He quickly explained, "Please don't misunderstand. I don't have any ill intentions, and I guarantee that the Array Emperor will not be in any danger." It was a pity that Yusiki and Palace did not believe his explanation and guarantee at all. Not only did they not withdraw the swords that were pointed at his forehead, but they also kept increasing their killing intent that was full of hostility. Xian Xiong faintly felt a piercing pain in his forehead, and his face instantly darkened. He had purposely fawned over Yu Haoran because he was the chosen one who could start and end the immeasurable calamity and decide the life and death of countless living beings. In order to obtain an advantage in the immeasurable calamity that was about to begin and protect the Black Tortoise Protector's legacy, Xian Xiong was willing to endure any of Yu Haoran's difficulties and indifference. However, in the face of Yusiki and the Red Loathe, who had ordinary strength and no special background, they actually dared to provoke them recklessly. At the same time, Xian Xiong was extremely annoyed, and at the same time, a strong killing intent rose in his heart. After all, not only was he the ancestor of the Black Tortoise Protector family, but he was also a divine beast at the peak of the 6th grade martial god realm. How could the divine might of a god be so easily offended and provoked by mere mortals? However, considering the special relationship between Yusiki and Palace and Yu Haoran, Xian Xiong definitely could not harm them rashly. However, under the condition of ensuring their safety, he would teach them a lesson and let them know the immensity of heaven and earth and the inviolability of divine might. After that, they would most likely not offend Yu Haoran. Xian Xiong's huge body trembled slightly at the thought of this. Then, an extremely powerful and terrifying aura pressed down on Yusiki and Palace like Mount Tai. Faced with Xian Xiong's terrifying aura, Yusiki and Palace did not want to be outdone. They brandished their swords and planned to break through the pressure of the terrifying aura with their attacks. However, just as the terrifying aura was about to collide with Yusiki and Palace, the milky white light around Yu Haoran rapidly vanished. With that, Yu Haoran reappeared before everyone's eyes. Xian Xiong quickly withdrew his terrifying aura and adopted an extremely respectful expression. He looked at Yu Haoran in anticipation and nervousness. Yusiki and Palace put away their swords as well. They looked at Yu Haoran in worry and nervousness as well. After turning his head to give Yusiki and Palace a reassuring look, Yu Haoran lowered his head and looked at the slightly dim, milky white stone in his hand. His eyes were filled with mixed emotions. This was because the milky white stone in his hand was not the fate stone that Xian Xiong had mentioned. Instead, it was the fate stone that contained a sliver of the origin aura of the laws of destiny. As the mysterious laws of destiny, not only could it greatly increase a cultivator's comprehension and potential, but could also increase a cultivator's luck, allowing them to obtain heaven-defying fortuitous encounters. However, the origin aura of the laws of destiny within the fate stone had been forcefully absorbed by a suction force in his body without him knowing what was going on. When he thought about what Thowling had said about the fate stone, the laws of destiny, Destiny's Child, the fate stone steel, and the immeasurable calamity, Yu Haoran suddenly felt a great pressure on his shoulders. His thoughts became extremely chaotic as well. As a result, Yu Haoran clasped his fist at Xian Xiong in gratitude after looking away from the fate stone. Senior Xian Xiong, thank you for giving me this special stone. It's allowed me to finally know who I am. You're too courteous with the Formation Emperor. This is something that I should do. Xian Xiong hurriedly humbled himself in response to Yu Haoran's gratitude. Senior Xian Xiong, the information contained within this special stone is too shocking and has a great impact on my mind, causing my thoughts to become extremely chaotic. Right now, I just want to return to the prince's mansion immediately and enter secluded cultivation to get used to and accept my new identity. Yu Haoran clasped his fist apologetically and explained once again. As a result, I can't continue to listen to Senior's teachings. I can only leave first. Although Xian Xiong could understand how shocking the identity of Destiny's Child would be to Yu Haoran, who did not know about it beforehand, Xian Xiong took the initiative to take out the precious fate stone not only to confirm Yu Haoran's identity as Destiny's Child, but also because he wanted to use this opportunity to gain Yu Haoran's favor and improve their friendship. As a result, Xian Xiong hurriedly urged Yu Haoran to stay when he took the initiative to leave. Chapter 1795. The Edge of the Huayu Mountain Range. Senior Xian Xiong, please speak. Since Xian Xiong had already made it clear that he wanted to leave immediately, It meant that what he was going to say next was very important. Therefore, Yu Haoran forcibly suppressed his complicated thoughts and waited to see what Xian Xiong wanted to say. Xian Xiong did not speak immediately in response to Yu Haoran's signal. Instead, he took out 9 formation flags embroidered with different divine beasts from the independent space and set up a defensive formation that could block spiritual sense and formula Tao speculations. Formation Emperor Yu, do you know anything about the consciousness of the heavens? When Yu Haoran heard Xian Xiong mention the consciousness of heaven, he immediately recalled the time when he reunited with the ethereal mouse in the underground cave. Through the memory crystal left by the ethereal mouse in his previous life, he saw the 3 white-haired old men on the huge silver chessboard. Senior Xian Xiong, the so-called consciousness of the heavens, seems to refer to the 3 powerhouses who possess exceptional strength. They can manipulate the consciousness of the heavens of the Tianxian continent through very special means, and thus have the power and means to punish on behalf of the heavens. You're right, Formation Emperor Yu. A trace of surprise flashed in Xian Xiong's eyes as he glanced at Yu Haoran. At the same time, he nodded to confirm. The 3 powerhouses who manipulate the consciousness of the heavens are Star Sovereign, who represents the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, Silver Moon Sovereign, who represents the moon, and Scorching Sun Sovereign, who represents the sun. Xian Xiong then turned to look in the direction of the central region with a hint of confusion in his eyes. 30 years ago, Star Sovereign and Silver Moon Sovereign worked together to use the greatest treasure of Formula Tao, the Tianyuan chessboard, which was said to be on par with innate cardinal treasures. They made a comprehensive prediction of the situation of the Tianxian continent for the next 100 years for 49 days. In the end, not only did they calculate the exact time when the primordial gods, demons, and underworld would appear, but they also accidentally deduced the whereabouts of the Destiny's Child and widely informed the top forces of the Tianxian continent. Yu Haoran could not help but frown when he heard Xian Xiong's further explanation. Through the changes in the Destiny's Stone and Thaling's confirmation, he already knew that he was the Destiny's Child who could start and end the immeasurable calamity. However, Star Sovereign and Silver Moon had deduced the time of the Destiny's Child 30 years ago. He had not been born then, so how did they calculate his existence? Moreover, why did the powerhouses of the 4 Guardian clans, the Yushu Temple and Flowing Cloud sect, dare to offend and hunt to kill him? Formation Emperor Yu, do you know who the child of destiny that Star Sovereign and Silver Moon Sovereign jointly calculated is? Xian Xiong didn't hide the mockery in his eyes as he looked away from the central region. Who? Xian Xiong's child twos to test to twos to twos child's destiny's child's is to des. While dispelling the doubts in his heart, he also wanted to know who the 2 sovereigns had made a mistake in their calculations. The master of the Yushu Temple's heavenly palace, the arrogant and ignorant Ji Xing. Xiansong's expression was full of contempt, and there was a hint of murderous intent in his reply. So if it's him, Yu Haoran was surprised when he heard Xian Xiong's reply. Then, a look of understanding flashed across his eyes. Whether it was talent, potential, reputation, or methods, Ji Xing's performance could be said to be the most outstanding among the countless powerhouses of the 3 generations in the Tianxian continent. He had the qualifications to become the Destiny's Child. That's right. Xian Xiong nodded in agreement and complained with a hint of indignation on his face. If it wasn't for Ji Xing's identity as the Destiny's Child, how could he be on equal footing with us godlike existences? If it wasn't for the strong protection of Star Sovereign and Silver Moon Sovereign, how could the Yushu Temple have the strength and confidence to become the leader of the 7 top sects in the Tianxian continent and have the power to override the Guardian families and the Hidden families? Senior Xian Xiong, you mean to say that the number of top powerhouses in the Yushu Temple, as well as the overall strength of the sect, is actually not as strong as the rumors say? The information revealed in Xian Xiong's indignant complaint made Yu Haoran immediately realize a key problem, and he hurriedly asked. That's right. Xian Xiong nodded in confirmation, and his expression was still full of mockery as he introduced in detail. The only sovereign of the Yushu Temple died, tragically, in the destruction of the Middle Ages. Among the three half-tribulation sovereigns, one died in an adventure in the Endless Swamp, one died in the hands of a woman in the Peach Blossom Calamity, and the last died in the destruction of the Late Ages. Among the 9 peak ninth-grade martial gods, 4 died in the internal strife of the Yushu Temple, 2 died in the pursuit of their enemies, 1 died in the heart demon of a breakthrough, and the last one has been in a coma ever since because his soul was severely injured. At this point, Xian Xiong looked 10,000 meters away and pointed at the 5 martial gods from the Ying Tai clan, the Kong clan, and the heavenly martial sect standing beside the martial god from the Guardian families. Martial Emperor Yu. The reason why the Ying Tai clan and the Kong clan were able to become secluded clans was because they had more than one utmost exalted level ancestor. At the same time, their utmost exalted level ancestor is still alive in this world. It's just that he's temporarily residing in the endless void. The reason why the heavenly martial sect can become one of the top 7 sects in the Tianxian continent is because they have a half-tribulation sovereign ancestor who is in a state of deep sleep in their sect, and they have at least 3 to 5 peak 9th grade martial gods. After hearing Xian Xiong's introduction of the Yushu Temple, the heavenly martial sect, the Ying Tai clan, and the Kong clan, Yu Haoran was extremely shocked. At the same time, he could understand why Xian Xiong was so dissatisfied with the Yushu Temple and Ji Xing after knowing his true identity. After withdrawing his gaze from the 5 martial gods, Xian Xiong took a deep breath and adjusted the dissatisfaction in his heart caused by the introduction of the Yushu Temple. Then, he reminded him with a serious expression. Formation Emperor Yu. Although Star Sovereign and Silver Moon Sovereign made a mistake in their speculation and allowed the Yushu Temple and Ji Xing to gain a lot of benefits for no reason, it is also because everyone mistakenly believes that Ji Xing is the child of destiny that it is a very good protection for you. Because you can take advantage of the fact that all the top forces in the Tianxian continent are paying attention to Ji Xing's every move to secretly improve your cultivation and strength, and slowly develop and strengthen your forces. Chapter 1796. At the edge of the Huayu Mountains. Thank you for your teachings, Senior Xian Xiong. This junior will remember it. Xian Xiong's solemn reminder was something that Yu Haoran had discussed with Thaling after learning of his true identity as the child of destiny. Therefore, regardless of whether Xian Xiong's reminder was out of goodwill or an ulterior motive, Yu Haoran thanked him from the bottom of his heart. You're too courteous, Formation Emperor. This is what I should do. Yu Haoran's heartfelt gratitude made Xian Xiong feel that he had finally received his due reward for his efforts. At the same time, he planned to continue earning more gratitude through his efforts without asking for anything in return. Therefore, after waving his hand to indicate that Yu Haoran did not need to be so courteous, Xian Xiong took out 3 simple gray jade slips from the independent space he had created and handed them to Yu Haoran. Formation Emperor. Among the 3 jade slips, one contains the innate fortune-telling mantra of He Shu and Luo Tu. Another contains the complete version of the heaven-spying earth-sealing formation, and the last contains the detailed history of the 5 great hermit clans and 7 top sects, as well as dozens of top hermit elites in the Tianxian continent. After hearing Xian Xiong's introduction of the information recorded in the 3 jade slips, Yu Haoran's hand behind his back clenched tightly. His eyes were filled with shock and complexity as he looked at the 3 gray jade slips. The innate fortune-telling mantra of He Shu and Luo Tu was on the same level as Fushi's 8 trigrams. The only difference between the two was that He Shu and Luo Tu was suitable for non-human beings to cultivate, while Fushi's 8 trigrams was suitable for human martial artists. However, there were many similar principles between He Shu and Luo Tu and Fushi's 8 trigrams. One could deepen their understanding of Fushi's 8 trigrams through their understanding of He Shu and Luo Tu, thereby greatly increasing their breakthrough in Formula Dao. The greatest practitioner of Formula Tao in the Middle Ages was an old man with a mindset that knew the past of the chaos and the secrets of the destruction of the world. It was through his cultivation of the river book, river diagram, and Fushi's 8 trigrams that he finally ascended to the supreme realm of Formula Tao. The heaven-spying, earth-locking formation was created by the 9 kings of the divine beasts and 13 supreme masters of the demon clan when the ancient divine beasts ruled the continent. It was a compound formation that combined attack, defense, illusion, spirit gathering, and time and space. It had the reputation of being the best formation in the world. According to rumors, as long as one could comprehend a trace of the essence of the heaven-spying, earth-sealing array, one could advance to the realm of arrayed deity. As long as one could comprehend half of the essence of the heaven-spying, earth-sealing formation, one would be able to obtain the supreme position in the array Tao realm. If he could set up the complete heaven-spying, earth-locking formation, he would be able to reach the peak of the supreme being realm. Moreover, he would have a 10% chance of breaking through to the immortal realm. Of course, judging from the current complicated and ever-changing situation in the Tianxian continent, the jade slips that recorded the detailed origins of the hermit clans, top sects, and top hermit experts were obviously the most urgent and precious treasures for Yu Haoran. After all, the news that he had just obtained 29 ginseng fruits and 3 innate spiritual treasures must have spread through the martial gods of the guardian clans, the hermit clans, and the heavenly martial sect. Next, he would probably have to deal with those experts who coveted the ginseng fruits and innate spiritual treasures. With Emperor Wu's complete 10th grade realm and the assistance of the celestial slashing sword and celestial trapping sword, he was not afraid of experts below the martial god realm. The only thing he did not have much confidence in was the hermit clans, top sects, and the hermit martial god realm experts. If he could understand the information of those martial god realm experts and take precautions in advance, he would have a certain degree of confidence in overcoming the calamity of greed. His gaze shifted from the 3 gray jade slips to Xianxiang. The shock and complexity in Yu Haoran's eyes were immediately replaced by hesitation. This was because he did not know whether he should accept the 3 extremely precious jade slips or not. Seeing the hesitation in Yu Haoran's eyes, Xianxiang did not need to guess too much to know the real reason for his hesitation. Therefore, Xianxiang put away the gentle smile on his face and solemnly requested, "Formation Emperor Yu, there's only one purpose for what I did just now, and that is I hope that in the future, in the immeasurable calamity, I can save my life and preserve the countless years of inheritance of my Black Tortoise clan." Xianxiang's true thoughts and intentions were not beyond Yu Haoran's expectations. However, Thowling only gave him a general introduction about the specific information of the Destiny's Child and the immeasurable calamity. He did not know how much he, as the Destiny's Child, could play in the immeasurable calamity, nor did he know if he could fulfill Xianxiang's request. Yu Haoran agreed to the divine beast Black Tortoise's request. Just as Yu Haoran did not know how to respond to Xianxiang's request, Thowling in his sea of consciousness suddenly reminded him. "Thowling, after we return to the prince's mansion, I need to know the details of the immeasurable calamity." Recalling how Thowling had been secretive when he introduced the Destiny's Child and the immeasurable calamity, Yu Haoran was immediately dissatisfied with his request. "Understand." While nodding to Yu Haoran's request, Thowling looked through the spatial barrier of his sea of consciousness and looked up at the void above the mountain range with a trace of worry in his eyes. "Senior Xianxiang, after the immeasurable calamity officially begins, I will do my best to protect you and the Black Tortoise clan." After the Tower Spirit agreed to his request, Yu Haoran reached out and took the 3 jade slips. At the same time, he gave his promise. However, his experience in his previous life and this life made him cautious. When he made the promise, he also left a little trick in advance and did not completely promise. Xianxiang did not hear the flaw in Yu Haoran's promise and hurriedly thanked him. "Thank you. Formation Emperor Yu." After waving his hand to indicate that Xian Xiong did not need to be polite, Yu Haoran put away the 3 gray jade slips and suddenly covered his heart with his hand. He then looked straight into Xian Xiong's eyes and asked, "Senior Xian Xiong, do you have any other instructions?" "Formation Emperor Yu, Xian Xiong has already said what needs to be said. For the time being, there is nothing else to say." Xian Xiong shook his head and replied, "In that case, I will take my leave first." After receiving Xian Xiong's reply, Yu Haoran cupped his fists and directly tore the void in front of him. He stepped into the void gap and sped up to return to the prince's mansion in Feng Run City. The reason why he was in such a hurry to return to Feng Run City was that when he put away the 3 gray jade slips, he suddenly felt flustered. Chapter 1797. In Feng Run City, Lan Rong, whose face was as pale as paper and whose aura had dropped to the early stage of the martial saint realm, knelt before Qin Lingfei and begged, "Your Highness, I beg you to return to the prince's mansion immediately and control the formation to return to the southern domain Xianyang City as soon as possible." In the sky outside of Feng Run City, there were 72 peerless experts ranging from Grade 1 to peak Grade 9 martial venerables, 36 almighty experts ranging from Grade 1 to peak Grade 9 martial emperors, 9 false divinity experts ranging from Grade 1 to Grade 3 demigod experts, and a silver-haired old man wearing a light blue robe whose cultivation couldn't be seen through. They were attacking the defensive formation of Feng Run City with all their might. Whether it was a peerless expert in the martial venerable realm, an almighty expert in the martial grand emperor realm, or a half-tribulation expert in the false god realm, the solar moonstar defensive formation could completely withstand their attacks. Just from this point alone, one could see the second clone's attainments in Array Dao and Array Dao. However, the silver-haired old man's cultivation base was unfathomable. Each of his seemingly casual attacks not only caused the Sun-Moon-Star defensive formation to tremble incessantly, but even Han Guangbei and the others who were in charge of controlling the formation coughed up blood as their auras continuously weakened. If it wasn't for the fact that Yu Haoran had left behind a large amount of pills that could quickly recover Yuan, Li, and soul power, as well as the injuries to the physical body and soul, Han Guangbei and the others would have already been killed by the silver-haired old man's attacks. However, based on the current situation, Han Guangbei and the others wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. The Solar Moonstar defensive formation could be broken at any time. Therefore, Lan Rong asked the commander at the peak of the Martial Saint realm to temporarily control the Solar Moonstar defensive formation for him. He personally came out to persuade Qin Lingfei and the Sword Without Trace to immediately bring Xiang Muling out of Feng Run City. General Lan, since Prince Consort Ma is the commander of the Northern Army, then, as his wife, I have the responsibility and obligation to defend Feng Run City to the death and live and die with the 100,000 brothers of the Northern Army. Qin Lingfei raised her head to look at the hundreds of experts who were fiercely attacking the defensive formation in the sky to the east of the city. Therefore, what General Lan needs to do now is to increase the power of the defensive formation and how to block the enemy's attacks instead of wasting time persuading me to leave. Miss Wu Hen, please persuade the princess. Seeing Qin Lingfei's firm attitude, Lan Rong could only plead with the gentle the Sword Without Trace. Jian Wuhan replied with a smile as he stood beside Qin Lingfei, clutching the sword in his hand. General Lan, I respect my sister's decision and am willing to live and die with her. Sigh. After hearing Jian Wuhan's choice, Lan Rong couldn't help but sigh. Then, he walked towards the array point that controlled the Solar Moonstar defensive array. However, when he regained control of the defensive formation, he took out a red pill from his storage ring. Looking at the pill that looked like it was refined from blood, a hint of hesitation flashed across Lan Rong's eyes. The demonic bereavement pill was something he had obtained by accident from the treasury of the city lord's mansion when he led the army to attack Qingmao City, which was thousands of miles away from here. The demonic sickness heart bereavement pellet was ranked number 2 among the top 10 forbidden pellets in the Tianxian land. It could ignore any limitations of cultivation and physique. In a very short period of time, it could forcefully increase a martial artist cultivation by 2 stages. For example, a warrior who had just entered the martial disciple realm would be able to attain the cultivation of an early first-grade martial master in 10 seconds at most after consuming a second-grade, first-grade demonic pill. For example, an expert at the peak of the 9th-grade martial royal realm would not only reach the peak of the 9th-grade martial venerable realm within 30 seconds after taking the rank 2-grade, first-grade mad demon bereaved heart pill, but he would also be able to control the simplest power of law. With the help of the pills and cultivation comprehension jade slips that Yu Haoran had left behind, as well as the deep accumulation of the siege during this period of time, Lan Rong actually had the strength to break through to the peak of the martial venerable realm. It was only because Yu Haoran had left Feng Run City that there was a shortage of powerhouses in the city that he had temporarily suppressed his breakthrough. If he were to consume the second-grade, first-grade mad devil morning pill now, with his cultivation at the peak of the 9th-grade martial saint realm and his deep accumulation, he would at least possess the strength of a second tribulation or even a third tribulation half-god. At the same time, with the help of the offensive formations that Yu Haoran had set up using the 9 divine beast mountains, they could easily kill martial venerables, and demigods. If he was lucky enough, he might even be able to severely injure the silver-haired old man whose cultivation he could not see through. Of course, the side effects of the second-stage, first-grade mad demon bereaved heart pill that could raise one's cultivation by 2 realms in a short period of time were also quite severe. After the effects of the second-stage, first-grade mad demon bereaved heart pill, the meridians and blood vessels of the cultivator who had taken the pill would break one by one. Their dantian and sea of consciousness would collapse inch by inch, and their internal organs would corrode bit by bit. After 7 days and 7 nights of inhumane torture, their fleshly body and soul would completely turn into a puddle of dirty water. When Yu Haoran was not in Feng Run City, as the great general, Lan Rong was the soul of the 100,000 elite soldiers in the north. Everyone would pay attention to his every move at all times. Seeing him take out the bright red pill and the hesitation and decisiveness that flashed in his eyes, whether it was Han Guangbei and the other 5 generals or the ordinary elite soldiers, their eyes all revealed a resolute look as they took out the pill that could raise one's cultivation and strength, and also had a very large side effect. Hurry up and attack. The silver-haired old man, who had been attacking casually with the attitude of watching a show, could not help but change his expression when he saw the 100,000 elite soldiers in the city all take out the demonic pill that could raise one's cultivation and strength in a short period of time. At the same time, he loudly ordered his subordinates who were attacking the defensive formation of the sun, moon, and stars. The silver-haired old man's order made the 100 martial saints, Emperor Wu, and the demigods attack the defensive formation crazily. At the same time, it also forced Lan Rong, who was still somewhat hesitant, to take the second-stage, first-grade mad demon bereaved heart pill in the end. Stop! However, just as Lan Rong placed the demonic maniac pill in his mouth and was about to swallow it, he heard a familiar, stern reprimand. As he quickly put away the pill, Lan Rong hurriedly looked up at the sky above Feng Run City. Then he saw Yu Haoran, whose face was ashen, and Yu Siki and Palace, whose faces were filled with killing intent, walk out of the spatial rift that had been forcefully torn open in the sky above the city. Chapter 1798. Outside Feng Run City. Yes, sir. Faced with Yu Haoran's order, the generals, including Lan Rong, who were sitting cross-legged, and the elite soldiers who were standing with spears, all knelt on one knee and obeyed. After taking a deep breath, Yu Haoran ordered, "Put away the elixirs in your hands immediately." "Yes, sir." Accompanied by a deafening response, the 100,000 elite soldiers immediately put away the elixirs in their hands. Immediately stop operating the formation and retreat to the city to recover your strength and injuries. Yu Haoran continued to order. Yes, sir. Although the enemies outside the city were extremely powerful, none of the 100,000 elite soldiers showed the slightest hesitation in the face of Yu Haoran's order. This made the silver-haired old man's eyes flash with a hint of surprise. The martial gods of the drifting cloud sect. After Lan Rong and the others removed the defensive formation of the Sun-Moon-Star formation, Yu Haoran flashed to the front of Feng Run City and pointed out the origin of the silver-haired old man and the others with an indifferent expression. I am Wu Zhong, the 1739th generation Great Elder of the Drifting Cloud Sect. In the face of Yu Haoran's identification, the silver-haired old man not only did not deny it, but also took the initiative to introduce himself. Junior Yu Haoran greets Senior Wu Zhong. While Wu Zhong was introducing himself, Yu Haoran had carefully checked the details of the Drifting Cloud Sect through the jade slip given by Xin Qion. He knew that the Drifting Cloud Sect had a half-tribulation supreme expert who was in a state of deep sleep, as well as a peak 9th grade martial god, and an early 9th grade martial god who had just woken up some time ago. Although Thaling, who had recovered to the martial god realm, had the strength to defeat and kill a peak 9th grade martial god with the help of the profound mysteries of the law and the two divine swords, Yuan Tu and Avicii, which were specialized in hurting the spirit, he was not a match for a half-tribulation supreme expert in a short period of time. Unless he had no other choice, Yu Haoran didn't want to truly fall out with the other party for the time being. He didn't want to provoke the revenge of a half-tribulation supremacy expert. Therefore, in the face of Wu Zhong's self-introduction, Yu Haoran greeted him as a junior and tried to keep his tone as calm as possible. Ever since I, Yu Haoran, started my journey, I have offended many powerful warriors and forces, but I have never offended the Sky Cloud Martial School. I wonder why Senior is leading hundreds of martial artists, Emperor Wu, and demigod warriors to attack my Feng Run City. The reason is very simple. An ancestor of the sect has taken a fancy to this mansion that can float and move. Moreover, it's not inferior to a god artifact, so he sent me here to ask for it. Yu Haoran took the initiative to be patient, but this only provoked Wu Zhong's arrogance. Not only did he not hide his intention to attack Feng Run City, he even ordered with a high and mighty attitude. Yu Haoran, if you don't want to see rivers of blood in Feng Run City, if you don't want to see your family and subordinates die in a pool of blood, then obediently hand over the control center of this mansion's formation. Senior, is there no room for negotiation? Yu Haoran's calm face instantly turned gloomy as he suppressed his anger and asked, either you die in rivers of blood or obediently hand over the control center of this mansion's formation. Wu Zhong arrogantly gave his final choice. If that's the case, then Feng Run City will be your burial ground. Because of your greedy actions today, the Sky Cloud Martial School will become the first peak force to be destroyed before the immeasurable calamity officially begins. Wu Zhong's repeated threats made Yu Haoran completely let go of the fear in his heart. He also planned to use a thunderous method to tell the Sky Cloud Martial School the consequences of offending him. Yu Haoran, come out, ancestral dragon! Roar! Accompanied by a deafening dragon roar, a giant 9-colored dragon that was more than 10,000 meters long quickly rushed out from Yu Haoran's chest. After devouring and absorbing the first divine dragon corpse in the 9 divine beast mountains, Chuolong's cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th stage of Emperor Wu, and it had the strength of a peak first tribulation demigod. After a period of cultivation, although Chuolong's cultivation did not continue to increase, the strength it could exert had reached the peak of the 3rd tribulation demigod. It could be said that it was the number 1 demonic beast below the gods. Ancestral dragon, the 9 demigod opponents are yours. Yu Haoran said calmly as he pointed at the 9 demigod experts from the 1st tribulation to the 3rd tribulation demigod realm. Give me 3 minutes, and I'll give you 9 demigod corpses. Ancestral dragon glanced at the opponents with its huge dragon eyes and said arrogantly. In response, Yu Haoran just nodded and then ordered Yusiki and Palace. Sister, Brother Qi, the 72 martial venerables and the 36 Emperor Wu realm experts are yours. Brother Yu, give us 3 minutes, and we'll give you 108 martial venerables and Emperor Wu realm experts' corpses. Palace, who had taken out the immortal culling sword, promised you Siki after making eye contact with her. Be careful. Although Palace and Yusiki did not have any breakthroughs in their cultivation, Yu Haoran knew that they had amazing gains in Jinyuan's tomb from the powerful aura they exuded. Therefore, he made the above arrangements. After instructing Yusiki and Palace, Yu Haoran took out the immortal trapping sword from the victor and looked at Wu Zhong indifferently. 10 hours ago, in the tomb of the great god Jinyuan during the Middle Ages, I saw the 5 martial gods of your flowing cloud sect. Seeing the 10,000-meter-long dragon exuding 9 kinds of light, and seeing Yu Haoran and the Scarlet Loathe taking out the immortal trapping sword and the immortal slaughtering sword, Wu Zhong's eyes revealed a strong look of greed. As for the Jinyuan tomb that Yu Haoran mentioned just now, as well as the 5 martial god realm seniors of the flowing cloud sect, as a martial god expert of the flowing cloud sect, he naturally knew and understood. As the old saying goes, a man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Holding the hilt of the immortal trapping sword tightly with his left hand, Yu Haoran continued to explain with an indifferent expression. The 5 martial gods of your flowing cloud sect were too greedy for the innate spiritual treasures and ginseng fruit trees in the tomb. They acted alone without waiting for the experts of the guardian families and reclusive families to arrive, recklessly provoking the artifact spirit of the book. Speaking of this, Yu Haoran glanced at the hundreds of experts of the Flowing Cloud sect before finally looking at Wu Zhong and asking, "Senior, do you know what happened to the 5 martial gods of your Flowing Cloud sect in the end?" Hearing the gloating tone in Yu Haoran's voice, Wu Zhong immediately asked nervously, "What happened?" "Their souls were destroyed, and they died without a burial place." As he slowly drew out the immortal trapping sword, Yu Haoran replied with a joyful smile on his face. Chapter 1799. Outside Feng Run City. Impossible. After hearing Yu Haoran's gloating reply, Wu Zhong retorted loudly. At the same time, he immediately used a special secret technique to contact Wu Xing, who was related to him by blood. However, the result was that the other party's divine soul had completely disappeared. This caused his expression to change. Unlike martial sages, martial venerables, and martial grand emperors, divine spirit experts in the martial god realm could not be nurtured with a large number of elixirs and secret techniques. Every martial god realm expert could be said to be the top and most outstanding genius of their era. Even though the Flowing Cloud sect had existed for a very long time and had nurtured many peak monstrous geniuses, there were only 17 martial gods who had managed to break through and survive until now. The death of 5 martial gods would not only cause the Flowing Cloud sect to lose a third of its top strength, but it would also change the balance of power struggle within the sect. This could cause the Flowing Cloud sect's overall strength to fall. Heaven punishing. When Yu Haoran saw that Wu Zhong's mind was in a slight daze due to the violent impact on his mind, Yu Haoran, who had long since mobilized his perfect 10th grade martial emperor cultivation, immediately executed the strongest sword move of the heaven-punishing Devil Emperor's self-created martial skill, and then directly slashed at Wu Zhong's vital point. For Wu Zhong to be able to stand out from the countless monstrous geniuses of his era and become an immortal god expert, his talent, potential, perseverance, perception, sharp reaction, rich combat experience, and other means were all top-notch. Therefore, facing Yu Haoran's sudden attack, although his absent-minded state caused him to lose the initiative, his rich combat experience allowed him to quickly wake up and make a timely counterattack. Half of his divine power quickly formed a defense to block the sharp sword chi that could cut through the divine body. The other half of his divine power immediately used a divine level palm technique to kill Yu Haoran, who dared to challenge the dignity of a divine spirit. If Yu Haoran was just an ordinary Emperor Wu expert, Even if he was a peak third tribulation demigod expert, Wu Zhong's counterattack just now would have been correct. After all, the difference between Emperor Wu in the demigod realm and the martial god realm was like the difference between a firefly and the moon. However, Yu Haoran was not an ordinary Emperor Wu expert. Not only had he advanced to the legendary Emperor Wu 10th stage perfection realm, but he could also exert the strength of a beginner in the martial god realm with the help of the celestial trapping sword, which could greatly increase his attacking power. Thus, when the sharp sword chi formed by the heaven-destroying sword technique was about to reach Wu Zhong's head, Wu Zhong's expression changed when he sensed that the sword chi contained a terrifying power that could threaten his divine body. He immediately retracted the divine power he had used to perform the divine level palm technique and activated the defensive divine weapon in his sea of consciousness at the same time. However, it was a pity that no matter whether it was quickly retracting the divine power used to perform the palm technique or immediately activating the defensive divine artifact, they could not compare with the speed of the swift and fierce sword chi. In the end, the sharp sword chi formed by the immortal trapping sword landed heavily on the opponent's vitals. Accompanied by a miserable and painful howl, Wu Zhong, who had been blasted to the ground by the swift and fierce sword chi, not only was his hair disheveled, but a third of his head was also split open and half of it was hanging on his head. At this moment, Wu Zhong gave off a very terrifying and strange feeling. Wu Zhong, who had risen into the air again, reached out and pressed the third of his head back on. Then, with a flash of green light, his injuries were instantly healed. From this point alone, one could see the strength of the martial god realm and the terror of a divine spirit expert. Boy, you actually dare to harm the noble body of a divine spirit. Next, I will definitely pull out your tendons, peel off your skin, suck your blood, and then cut you into pieces. Wu Zhong said through gritted teeth as he took out a rusty black glove that exuded a powerful aura from the independent space he had opened up. A divine body that could continuously condense the essence of life was the key to a divine spirit expert's eternal longevity. Therefore, Yu Haoran was not at all surprised by Wu Zhong's ability to quickly heal his vitals. He continued to mobilize all his strength and then used a broken sword technique that Zhen Yuanzi had accidentally collected from the Sutra Depository in Zhen Yuan's tomb. Evil Soul, accompanied by Yu Haoran's soft cry, the swift and fierce sword chi condensed in the immortal ending sword vaguely emitted an aura that made one's soul feel fear. Soul Extinguishing Hand. Wu Zhong, who had quickly put on the glove, immediately used the divine level palm technique and also quickly mobilized the defensive divine artifact to protect himself. Boom! The moment the swift and fierce sword chi and the green palm collided, a deafening roar immediately rang out in most of the eastern and central regions. It also attracted the attention of countless martial saints, martial venerables, Emperor Wu, demigods, and martial gods experts in these regions. Accompanied by the deafening roar, the swift and fierce sword chi that was instantly defeated caused Yu Haoran to retreat a dozen or so steps from the backlash. A trace of blood slowly flowed from the corner of his mouth. The instant the green palm was defeated, Wu Zhong also retreated a dozen or so steps. 2 streaks of blood flowed from the corners of his eyes, and his face turned pale. Limited by his cultivation that had just entered the martial god realm, the speed at which his divine body could condense the essence of life was not very fast. Therefore, the injuries that seemed to be easily healed just now had actually consumed nearly 30% of his life essence, causing Wu Zhong to almost fall from the martial god realm. At the same time, the evil soul sword technique contained an aura that made one's soul feel fear. It could directly penetrate the defense of a divine artifact and directly injure the soul in the sea of consciousness. This was the real reason why Wu Zhong was bleeding from the corner of his eyes. Seeing Yu Haoran reach out to wipe away the remaining blood from the corner of his mouth, Wu Zhong's eyes were filled with incomparable shock. In his 10 million years of experience, Wu Zhong had seen countless geniuses and monstrous geniuses. There was no lack of monstrous geniuses who could reach the martial god realm in the end and surpass him in cultivation. However, he had never seen a monster like Yu Haoran, who was clearly only at the peak of the 9th grade of Emperor Wu, yet could unleash power that had just entered the martial god realm. With the terrifying potential that Yu Haoran was currently displaying, just how powerful would he be once he successfully reached the martial god realm? Would he be able to directly face peak 9th grade martial gods? If he could reach the peak of the 9th grade martial god realm, would he be able to threaten half-tribulation venerables? Chapter 1800. Outside Feng Run's city. Yu Haoran. Wu Zhong wants to escape. Ever since Yu Haoran had hurriedly returned to Feng Run city, although Thowling had not expressed any opinions, he had been secretly on guard against Wu Zhong, who could pose a fatal threat to Yu Haoran. Therefore, the moment he clearly sensed Wu Zhong's intention to escape, Thowling immediately reminded him. Evil soul. After hearing Thowling's reminder, Yu Haoran did not hesitate to continue to mobilize all his strength and quickly performed the second sword technique of the broken sword martial technique left behind by Jin Yuanzi. Cover the sky. Yu Haoran's sudden sword technique attack was not unexpected to Wu Zhong. He immediately overdrew a portion of his divine power and soul power to perform the strongest defensive palm technique of the divine level palm technique. After successfully blocking the sharp sword chi that could harm the divine soul, he directly tore open the void in front of him, intending to escape Feng Run City and return to the Flowing Clouds sect. As for the juniors who were being chased by ancestral Gragon, Yusiki, and Palace, he had no intention of saving them. However, Wu Zhong, who was in a hurry to escape, overlooked a very fatal flaw. That was, the previous two exchanges had caused his divine body and divine soul to suffer a certain amount of damage, causing his strength to fall to the verge of the martial god realm. Now, he had overdrawn his divine power and soul power to perform an even more powerful palm technique, causing his strength to fall to the 3rd tribulation demigod realm. With the martial god realm, coupled with the power of the law of flash, which was infinitely close to teleportation, Yu Haoran directly appeared behind Wu Zhong the moment he stepped into the void crack. Then he performed the heart-piercing sword technique together with the celestial trapping sword and directly pierced through Wu Zhong's heart, causing his divine body to suffer even more serious injuries. You forced me to do this. Even though Wu Zhong's cultivation had reached the martial god realm, the heart was still an extremely important vital point for a godly expert. The pain and injury from having his heart pierced caused Wu Zhong to roar with a ferocious expression. After that, he used up a 1/3 of his divine power to repair his damaged heart. He then continued to overdraw his divine power and divine soul to cast the forbidden secret technique. Even Wu Zhong did not fear him when he was at his peak state. How could Yu Haoran not care that his strength had dropped to the level of a 1st tribulation demigod? The soul-slaying sword technique, which could directly attack the sea of knowledge and spirit, combined with the celestial trapping sword and the power of law of the flash dual elemental systems, had severely injured Wu Zhong's spirit before he could use the forbidden secret technique, causing his strength to fall to the peak of Emperor Wu's 9th stage. Yu Haoran, leave behind Wu Zhong's soul to strengthen the Prince's Mansion's defensive formation. Just as Yu Haoran was about to continue using his sword technique to directly destroy Wu Zhong's soul, the Thowling in his sea of consciousness suddenly reminded him. Okay, then do it. To be able to use the soul of a martial god expert to strengthen the defensive formation of the Prince's Mansion was exactly what Yu Haoran wanted. However, he did not know how to extract the soul of a god that had not yet died, so he could only leave it to the Thowling. You don't have to worry about the matter of Wu Zhong's soul. Go and deal with the matters of Feng Run City first. After nodding in response to Yu Haoran's instructions, the Thowling used a secret technique to extract Wu Zhong's soul while smiling and instructing him. The 3 fights were very short, which meant that the battle between Ancestral Gragon, Yusiki, and Palace and the hundreds of experts of the Flowing Cloud sect had not yet ended. After carefully observing the two sides fighting and knowing that ancestral Graygon, Yusiki, and Pallas had the absolute advantage, Yuhauran did not intervene in the battle between the two sides. Instead, he flew to the side of Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace. Prince's Mansion, Junior Yu, Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace, who had experienced the ups and downs of life and death, saw that Yuhauran, whom their hearts depended on, had returned safely to their side and excitedly threw themselves into his arms. "It's all right. I've returned safely, haven't I?" Yuhauran reached out and patted Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace's shoulders as he smiled and comforted them. "Furthermore, I've obtained enough treasures to allow your cultivation and strength to be reborn. In the future, you will have enough cultivation and strength to defeat and kill martial gods." After hearing Yuhauran's comforting words, the sword without trace gradually calmed down and left the embrace with a slightly embarrassed expression. Of course, for Qin Lingfei, who had trained her face to a certain extent, she was forcefully pulled away by Yuhauran before reluctantly leaving the embrace. This subordinate greets the prince consort. It was not until Qin Lingfei left Yuhauran's embrace that Lan Rong and the others, who were standing guard 100 meters away, dared to quickly run over to greet them. "Get up!" Yuhauran lifted Lan Rong and the others up with a wave of his sleeve, and then praised with a gentle expression. "Not bad. Your performance just now was very good." "Thank you for your praise, Lord Prince Consort. This is what we should do." Faced with Yuhauran's praise, Lan Rong and the others quickly knelt down in excitement. "During this period of time, I will go into seclusion to break through to the alchemy divinity realm. After I succeed in breaking through, I will refine a batch of medicinal pills that can help me break through to the martial sage, martial venerable, and Emperor Wu realm." After gesturing for everyone to get up, Yuhauran smiled and made the promise he had just made. "At that time, martial venerable and Emperor Wu will only be your starting point. In the future, you will even have the opportunity to break through to the martial god realm, which is the mystery of life and death, and become immortal gods. Thank you for your kindness, Lord Prince Consort. This subordinate will definitely sacrifice his life to repay Lord Prince Consort's kindness." To Lan Rong and the others, who had ordinary talent and potential, becoming a peerless expert in the martial venerable realm was an unattainable dream in the past. Now, the martial venerable and Emperor Wu realm was only the starting point of their martial arts cultivation. In the future, they could even become immortal gods. Yuhauran's promise made them feel extremely excited, and at the same time, he had also completely subdued their loyalty, causing them to kneel down to express their gratitude. After gesturing for Lan Rong and the others to get up for the second time, Yuhauran raised his head to look at ancestral Graygon, Yuhauran, and Pallas, who had finished their battles at the same time. He then instructed Lan Rong and the others. The corpses of martial venerable, Emperor Wu, and the demigod realm experts all contain an unimaginable amount of life essence. Collect all the corpses, and I will set up a formation in the City Lord's mansion that can extract the life essence from the corpses. It will help you increase your cultivation and strength faster. Yes, Lord Prince. Not only did Yuhauran provide them with top-notch medicinal pills, but he also set up a formation that could extract life essence. Everything that Yuhauran had done for them made Lan Rong and the others even more loyal. At the same time, they immediately flew out of the city to collect the corpses of martial venerable, Emperor Wu, and the demigod realm experts. Return to the prince's mansion. Chapter 1801. Inside the prince's mansion, sitting upright on a stone chair in the pavilion, looking at Qin Lingfei, the sword without trace, Yusiki, and Pallas sitting around him, Yuhauran smiled as he sat inside the victor. He took out 4 specially crafted jade boxes and placed them one by one on the stone table. Pallas, who knew what kind of heaven-defying treasures were stored in the jade boxes, stood up due to his overly excited emotions. His eyes revealed an expression of disbelief. Even Yusiki, who had already reached the realm of oblivion, when she saw the jade boxes placed on the stone table, her breathing gradually became heavier as a trace of desire appeared in her eyes. Sister, Brother Chi, I think there's no need to say anything more. You can put away the jade boxes. Yu Haoran instructed with a smile as he pointed at the jade boxes placed on the stone table. Brother Yu, there's no need to say anything else. Let's see what happens. After putting away a jade box placed on the stone table, Palace patted his chest in assurance. Little Ran, thank you. Yusiki, who hadn't spoken for nearly half a year, also took the initiative to express her thanks after putting away a jade box on the stone table. This made Yu Haoran feel a kind of unexpected joy. This meant that Yusiki's mind hadn't been completely controlled by the realm of oblivion of the sovereign mantra. She couldn't cut off her blood ties with him, so he still held a very important position in her heart. Although this state would affect the speed of her cultivation, it would instead help her reach the realm of oblivion. Palace and Yusiki's overly excited reactions immediately piqued the curiosity of Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace. Relying on Yu Haoran's love for her, Qin Lingfei directly reached out and opened a jade box on the stone table. Immediately after, she suddenly stood up, her expression incomparably excited as she spoke with a trembling voice. Could this be the legendary ginseng fruit that can instantly become a god? Yu Haoran reminded her with a smile as he reached out and pulled the extremely excited Qin Lingfei over and let her sit on his lap. The ginseng fruit isn't fake, but it doesn't have the heaven-defying effect of becoming a god in the neutral lands. Prince Consort, where have you been these past few days? Qin Lingfei turned her head and looked straight into Yu Haoran's eyes. She was still very excited as she asked. I went to the tomb of the great god Jin Yuan with Big Sister and Brother Chi. We were lucky enough to obtain some ginseng spirit fruits. After giving a simple explanation, Yu Haoran put away the smile on his face and solemnly instructed Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace. Lingfei, Wu Hen, although the ginseng fruit doesn't have the heaven-defying effect of becoming a god in the neutral lands, is still a rare treasure that can help Emperor Wu reach the peak of the 9th rank in demigod realm. Therefore, before your cultivation reaches the peak of the 9th rank of Emperor Wu, you must not use the ginseng fruit to increase your cultivation. As for Yusiki and Palace, who had put away the ginseng fruit in advance, Yu Haoran didn't give any reminders. This was because Palace had already reached the peak of the 9th rank of Emperor Wu 2 months ago. He already had the qualifications and strength to directly use the ginseng fruit to break through to the divine realm. Although Yusiki was also only at the peak of the 9th rank of the martial sovereign realm, her own deep accumulation and profound mental state cultivation allowed her to break through to the peak of the 9th rank of the Emperor Wu in a short period of time. Then, with the ginseng fruit, she could directly break through to the martial god realm. Understood. In response to Yu Haoran's solemn reminder, Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace simultaneously put away the jade boxes on the stone table and nodded in reply. Lingfei, Wu Hen, although you won't be able to use the ginseng fruit to increase your cultivation in a short period of time, I have a way to allow you to have strength not inferior to Emperor Wu or demigod realm experts for a short period of time. After Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace joyfully put away the jade boxes, Yu Haoran resumed his smile and reminded them. Then he took out the golden dragon scissors that emitted a faint golden light and the dragon binding rope that emitted a faint green light from the victor. Lingfei, this is the innate spiritual treasure, the golden dragon scissors that was born from the chaos when the heavens and earth were first created. It has a powerful attack power that can strangle the divine body and soul of a martial god realm expert. It will allow you to deal with all enemies below the 3rd tribulation of the demigod realm. Yu Haoran gave a detailed introduction of the golden dragon scissors that emitted a golden light to Qin Lingfei. After Qin Lingfei received the golden dragon scissors, Yu Haoran handed the dragon binding rope to the sword without trace and gave the same detailed introduction. Wu Hen, this rope is called the dragon binding rope. It is also an innate spiritual treasure that was born from the chaos when the heavens and earth were first created. It can directly bind the divine body and soul of a martial god realm expert. Then, when combined with the red bud sword technique that you have mastered, it will be able to deal with enemies below the third tribulation of the demigod realm. Junior brother Yu, thank you. After receiving the dragon binding rope, the sword without trace was both happy and touched as he thanked Yu Howren. Husband, I'll wait for you tonight. The double impact of the ginseng fruit and the golden dragon scissors made Qin Ling Fei happy and touched. At the same time, she couldn't help but hint at Yu Howren. Yu Howren, whose heart was thumping, hurriedly nodded in agreement. He stood up and walked to the edge of the pavilion. He looked in the direction of the central domain with a nostalgic expression in his eyes. Husband, don't worry. Little June has sister Sue Jean's protection. He definitely won't be in any danger. Seeing that Yu Howren's mood had suddenly become low while looking in the direction of the central domain, Qin Ling Fei, who was his pillow, quickly guessed the reason for his low mood. Ling Fei, I'm not worried about Jingjuan's safety. I'm just anxious to let him share the joy of the ginseng fruit as soon as possible, Yu Howren said with a trace of regret after looking away from the central domain. Husband, why don't you use the communication Jade talisman to send a message to little June now, and then use a more subtle way to secretly tell him about the ginseng fruit? After hearing the real reason for Yu Howren's low mood, Qin Ling Fei thought for a while and then suggested with a smile. In this way, he could share the joy of the ginseng fruit with you as soon as possible, and you won't have any regrets. Ling Fei, you're right. After hearing Qin Ling Fei's suggestion, Yu Howren thought for a while and nodded in agreement. He then entered his storage ring with his mind. Just as he was about to take out the communication Jade talisman that was specially used to contact Wu Jingjun for communication Jade talismans in the area where the communication Jade talismans were stored in the storage ring suddenly flashed. Yu Howren immediately took out the 4 flashing communication Jade talismans and then quickly read the messages sent from the communication Jade talismans. He revealed an extremely happy smile. Because the 4 communication Jade talismans just now belonged to Wu Jingjun, Lu Yuan, Yun Xiang, and Fong Man. The messages in the communication Jade talismans mentioned that they would arrive at the prince's mansion in Fengrun City within 1 to 2 hours. Chapter 1802. Fengrun City, the prince's mansion. 1 to 2 hours was not a long time. Yu Howren returned to the stone chair in the pavilion and guided Qin Ling Fei and the sword without trace in their cultivation as he waited for his friends and disciples to arrive. An hour later, the first person to arrive at the prince's mansion was his eldest disciple, Yun Xiang. Yun Xiang greets master and mistresses. Yun Xiang, who had been brought to the backyard by the green dragon, immediately jumped off the dragon's back when she saw Yu Howren and the others sitting in the pavilion. Then, she respectfully knelt down to pay her respects. Xianger, get up. Yu Howren praised with a satisfied look in his eyes after lifting Yun Xiang up with a wave of his sleeve. Not bad. It seems that you have gained a lot during this period of cultivation. Not only have you successfully advanced to the early stage of the peak first-grade martial honored realm, your aura also contains a trace of killing intent. Faced with Yu Howren's praise, Yun Xiang did not dare to be arrogant and quickly explained humbly, Master, the reason why I was able to break through to the early stage of the peak first-grade martial honored realm in such a short period of time is all thanks to Big Brother Du Yuan's help. However, just as Yun Xiang finished her humble explanation, the voice of the poison's origin came from within her body. Brother Yu, the reason why Master's cultivation was able to advance by leaps and bounds is the result of her own hard work and desperation. It has nothing to do with the origin of my poison. Brother Du Yuan, you and Yun Xiang have a special relationship that complements and compensates for each other. Faced with Yun Xiang's modesty and explanation of the origin of the poison, Yu Howren was deeply gratified and smiled as he spoke. Therefore, Yun Xiang's current achievements are not only due to her own hard work and desperation, but also due to your help. At this point, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at the excited palace. A trace of guilt flashed across his eyes as he instructed Yunxiang. Yunxiang, Brother Du Yuan and Brother Qi have not seen each other for a long time. They must have a lot to talk about. Follow Brother Qi to my cultivation room. When he had brought Palace back to the prince's mansion, Qin Lingfei, in the sword without trace, had almost revealed expressions of disgust and fear. If they were to see Du Yuan, who looked even uglier than Palace, the shock to their hearts would cause them to react in a way that would make Du Yuan sad and Palace disappointed. Therefore, before Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace truly understood the origin of the poison, he did not wish to cause unnecessary misunderstandings and trouble between his lovers and friends. This disciple understands. Understanding her master's intentions, Yunxiang nodded in response and followed Palace to the cultivation room in the courtyard. After sending Du Yuan out of the pet space, she left the cultivation room alone and returned to the pavilion. She stood silently behind Yu Haoran. Just 10 minutes after Yunxiang arrived at the prince's mansion, a sharp sword aura pierced through the clouds and tore through the thick yellow gas in the mansion, instantly appearing in the backyard of the mansion. Senior Brother Lu. Sensing the familiar aura of the sword aura, Yu Haoran abruptly stood up. When he saw the white-robed youth who had landed on the grass in the backyard, he excitedly rushed toward the tall youth who had a restrained aura and a gentle smile on his face. Since Lu Yuan bid farewell to his master Jianyu and left the prince consort's estate before the Hidden Dragon rankings officially began, even though there hadn't been any news about him, he knew that Senior Brother Lu had always been helping him weaken the thread of the Sword Dao Karmic Luck from the Sword Dao Karmic Luck that was constantly declining. In particular, through the second great decline of his sword aura and the accidental deaths of the Sky Sword Sex, Earth Sword, and Man Sword, he was even more certain of Senior Brother Lu's silent efforts. Junior Brother Yu. When Lu Yuan saw the blue-clothed young man charging towards him and saw the young man's excited expression, he also called out to him in a slightly excited manner. Not bad. After giving Yu Haoran a big hug, Lu Yuan carefully took care of him, especially when he heard the Xian Yuan sword's reminder of Yu Haoran's cultivation and potential. His eyes were filled with shock as he praised him. Junior Brother Yu, I didn't expect that in just a short year, you've already reached the peak of the 9th level of Emperor Wu. I'm ashamed of my inferiority. Senior Brother Lu, although you're still a peak 9th level Martial Venerable, I believe that with your own potential and accumulation, as well as Senior Xuanyuan's guidance, it won't be difficult to directly reach the peak of the 9th level of Emperor Wu. Yu Haoran, who had also been reminded by Thaling, smiled as he exposed the fact that Lu Yuan's cultivation was not inferior to his at all. If it was purely a competition of sword skills, Lu Yuan believed that he could defeat Yu Haoran within 10 moves. However, if it was a competition of sharp words, Lu Yuan knew that even 10 of him would not be a match for Yu Haoran. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's direct exposure of his cultivation progress, Lu Yuan could only nod with a wry smile and did not say anything more. Senior Brother Lu, where's Senior Jinyu? Yu Haoran asked with concern as he led Lu Yuan to the pavilion. Master is in seclusion to reach the peak of the Emperor Wu. He won't be able to visit Junior Brother Yu for a while. Lu Yuan replied happily. Yu Haoran was not too surprised that Jinyu could reach the peak of the Emperor Wu in such a short time with the help of his filial disciple Lu Yuan and the guidance of the Xian Yuan sword spirit, who was not inferior to Thaling. The brotherly love between Yu Haoran and Lu Yuan was something that Qin Lingfei, who was his wife, and the sword without trace, who was his confidant, understood very well. Therefore, when they saw Lu Yuan walk into the pavilion, Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace stood up at the same time to greet him and took the initiative to give up their seats. Senior Brother Lu, please take a seat, Yu Haoran said with a smile as he pointed at the stone chair that the sword without trace gave up. Sorry to trouble you, sister-in-law. Lu Yuan sat down on the stone chair after thanking the sword without trace. After Lu Yuan sat down, the sword without trace took the initiative to stand behind Qin Lingfei, while Yu Haoran discussed the cultivation of swordsmanship with him. Although the self-destruction of his natal sword meant that he had completely severed his relationship with the sword Dao, he had obtained the celestial extinguishing sword, the celestial trapping sword, the Yuan massacre sword, and the Avicii divine sword. For a long time in the future, he would have to rely on profound swordsmanship and divine swords to fight his enemies. Therefore, he needed to pick up the cultivation of swordsmanship again. 20 minutes later, as a terrifying aura rapidly approached the prince's mansion, whether it was Lu Yuan, Yusiki, or Palace who had rushed out of the cultivation room, they all quickly took defensive stances as if they were facing a great enemy. Chapter 1803. In the prince's mansion in Fengrun City, Yu Haoran waved his hand to signal Lu Yuan and the rest not to be nervous. He opened the mansion's defensive formation with his 10 fingers as he smiled and nodded in response to Yunxiang's request for confirmation. That's right, it's the Black Man Divine Dragon that has reached the peak of the third tribulation demigod realm. As the mansion's defensive formation was opened and Yu Haoran responded, a black dragon that was almost 30,000 meters long slowly descended in the backyard of the mansion. Disciple Feng Man pays respects to Master. As the Black Man Divine Dragon's body gradually shrank, a young lady with a voluptuous figure wearing a black corset dress jumped down from the dragon's head. She gave off an unusual charm. Then, the young lady quickly rushed to Yu Haoran and knelt before him. Her eyes were filled with excitement as she greeted him. Greet your two mistresses first. Ever since he reluctantly accepted her as his disciple, although Yu Haoran often gave Feng Man some resources and treasures that could aid her in her cultivation, he had never guided her in her cultivation. He also rarely truly cared about her safety. Therefore, facing the respectful and filial Feng Man, a trace of guilt welled up in his heart, causing him to secretly make a decision. Feng Man pays respects to my two mistresses. After hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, Feng Man moved her knees and respectfully kowtowed 9 times to Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace. Manner, quickly get up. According to the normal etiquette of the Tianxian continent, a direct disciple only needed to kowtow once to his master's wife when they first met. Feng Man kowtowed 9 times in a row from the bottom of her heart, completely inviting Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace's maternal love and sincerely winning their love. After personally helping Feng Man up, Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace looked at each other, then took out a large amount of precious treasure from their storage rings and stuffed them all into Feng Man's hands. Yunxiang, who was slightly jealous, couldn't help but pout and grumble softly when she saw how highly the two mistresses regarded and doted on Feng Man, biased. Yu Haoran turned around and patted Yunxiang's shoulder as he comforted her with a smile. Yunxiang, Master dotes on you. I'll give you an unexpected gift later. He then walked up to the Black Man Dragon, whose body had shrunk to a size of a few dozen meters, and asked with a slight frown, Brother Feng Man, why are you harming your potential to break through to the third tribulation demigod realm? As a Black Man Dragon that contained top-notch poison, it had the potential to directly reach the peak of the 9th level of the divine realm. Now, with the opportunity of the recovery of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it could completely suppress the breakthrough after its cultivation reached the peak of the 9th level of the martial emperor realm. At the same time, it could strengthen its accumulation and then break through to the divine beast realm. Brother Yu, the Black Man Divine Dragon clan, is different from the ordinary dragon clan and demon beasts. Faced with Yu Haoran's worry and confusion, the Black Man Divine Dragon did not seem to mind at all and explained, if I want to break through to the Supreme Being realm in the future and become a Supreme Being Divine Beast, I will have to go through all the small realms that demonic beasts have to go through, including Half-Tribulation Martial Saint, Half-Tribulation Martial Emperor, Half-Tribulation Martial God, and Half-Tribulation Supreme Being realm. The Calamity Spirit physique among the thousands of unique physiques. After hearing the Black Man Divine Dragon's explanation, Thaling, who was in the Sea of Consciousness, recalled a little, and then cried out in shock. Thaling, what is the calamity spirit physique? After hearing Thaling call out the unique physique, Yuhaoran also carefully recalled for a while and realized that among the thousands of unique physiques that he was familiar with, there was no such calamity spirit physique. The calamity spirit physique is ranked 6th among the thousands of unique physiques. It has the powerful auxiliary ability to go through 1,000 tribulations and become a supreme. Knowing that Yuhaoran was limited by his cultivation in his past life and could not see the origins of the top 10 unique physiques in the Jade Slip, Thaling explained in detail. Of course, the so-called 1,000 tribulations is just a metaphor. Instead, living beings with the calamity spirit physique must go through all the half-tribulation realms, because only then can the supreme potential contained in the unique physique be completely unlocked. With this, one can directly break through to the supreme realm. Yuhaoran, one of the 9 great divine beast kings in ancient times, the dragon god supreme, advanced to the supreme realm through the continuous unlocking of the calamity spirit physique and became a peak powerhouse among the supreme beings. Thaling immediately examined Fong Man and see if she has the calamity spirit physique. After hearing Thaling's detailed introduction of the calamity spirit physique, especially when he heard that the dragon god supreme, one of the 9 great divine beast kings in ancient times, was also a living being with the calamity spirit physique, Yuhaoran's heart was filled with anticipation as he ordered. If his second disciple, Fong Man, also possessed the tribulation spirit physique, he would be able to easily help her overcome the half-tribulation of every cultivation realm with his abilities in the way of pills, allowing her to break through to the martial god and sovereign realm even faster. Yuhaoran, have you forgotten what I told you before? The top 10 unique physiques among the thousands of unique physiques are unique in this world. Seeing that Yuhaoran had asked such a simple question, Thaling immediately criticized him with some displeasure. As long as one living being has this unique physique, then no other living being can have it. Thaling's criticism caused Yuhaoran's endless anticipation to be instantly replaced by extreme disappointment. After a soft sigh, he invited Hei Meng, the god dragon. Brother Fong, if you can continue to shrink your body, why don't we have a chat in the pavilion? Brother Yu, there's no need for that. I'll be fine here. The pavilion was not large, and the 6 of them almost filled the entire inner pavilion. Moreover, even if they continued to shrink their body, with the giant dragon's unique physique, it was not suitable for them to stay in the pavilion. Therefore, Hei Meng the god dragon tactfully shook its head and refused. All right then. Seeing that Hei Meng the god dragon had refused to enter the pavilion, Yuhaoran did not try to persuade it any further. When he turned around and was about to return to the pavilion, the green and blue flood dragons in charge of guarding the mansion quickly rushed to the backyard of the mansion. Senior brother, just as the green flood dragon arrived at the backyard, an unusually excited shout came from the top of its head. In the entire Tianxian continent, only one person would directly address him as senior brother, and only one person had the right to call him senior brother. This person was Wu Jingjun, who was more like a brother to him, even though they were not related by blood. Zhengjun, seeing Wu Zhengjun rush over, Yuhaoran also revealed an extremely happy smile on his face. Not bad at all. Chapter 1804. In the governor's mansion of Fengrun City, Zhongli Swamp, who jumped down from the head of the blue flood dragon, looked at Yuhaoran with a shocked expression. As the most trusted daughter of the Zhongli family, Zhongli Luz not only had the best talent and potential, but also had a pair of eyes that could see through the void. At this time, although Yuhaoran did not show a trace of power, she already knew Yuhaoran's real cultivation under the gaze of her eyes that could see through the void. When she left the prince's mansion, although she knew that Emperor Wu's realm would not be an obstacle for Yuhaoran to reach the peak of martial arts, he could reach the peak of Emperor Wu's cultivation from the peak of 9th grade martial honored realm in just a few months. This kind of terrifying cultivation speed could be ranked in the top 3 even in the early ancient era, which was full of innate spiritual qi. Miss Shuai-Qin, thank you. Although Wu Zhengjuan's talent and potential could be considered outstanding, the reason why he was able to reach peak rank 3 martial emperor in such a short period of time was related to the Zhongli clan's special secret realm. It was also inseparable from Zhongli Shuai-Qin's meticulous care. Therefore, as the elder brother, Yu Haoran bowed sincerely to thank her. Yu Shixiang, you're welcome. This is what I should do. In the face of Yu Haoran's solemn gratitude, Zhongli Shuai-Qin, who discovered the abnormality, quickly waved her hand. In the face of Zhongli Shuai-Qin's politeness, Yu Haoran did not say anything more. He just motioned for them to follow him into the pavilion. Sister Sui-Jin, please sit. Seeing Zhongli Shuai-Qin step into the pavilion, Qin Lingfei, who had a very good relationship with her, quickly got up and let her sit. In the past, with her identity as the daughter of the Zhongli family and her cultivation at the peak of 9th grade martial honored realm, she was fully qualified to let Qin Lingfei take the initiative to let her sit. But now, Sister Lingfei, you sit. I'll stand. Zhongli Shuai-Qin reached out and pressed Qin Lingfei back to the stone chair. Her attitude and tone were much more polite than before. Senior Brother Liu, Zhengjun, Miss Shuai-Qin, Yun Xiang, Fong Man, even if you didn't come today, I would have taken the initiative to use the communication jade talisman to invite you. Ignoring Qin Lingfei and Zhongli Shuai-Qin, Yu Haoran glanced at the people in the pavilion and spoke. Because a few hours ago, by chance, I obtained a precious treasure that can help you reach the martial honored realm. After experiencing the effects of the ancient, middle, and recent ancient eras, the cultivation environment of the entire Tianxian continent had become very harsh. Not to mention precious treasures that could help one reach the martial honored realm. Even treasures that could help one reach the martial honored realm and Emperor Wu's realms were very rare. Therefore, when they heard Yu Haoran mention precious treasures that could help one reach the martial honored realm, both the calm Lu Yuan and the knowledgeable Zhongli Shuai-Qin immediately looked at him. Yu Haoran softly chuckled at Lu Yuan and Zhongli Shuai-Qin's gazes. He took out 7 specially made jade boxes from his storage ring and placed them on the stone table, after which he instructed Lu Yuan and the rest. There was a share just now, 1 for each of you. As his personal disciples, Yun Xiang and Fong Man definitely couldn't make the first move before the guests put away the jade boxes. As Yu Haoran's elder brother, how could the proud and aloof Lu Yuan be the first to check and put away the jade boxes? As the only guest present, Zhongli Shuai-Qin, who hadn't confirmed her relationship with Wu Zhengjun yet, was even more embarrassed to be the first to check the treasures in the jade boxes. Therefore, when he saw that no one was opening or putting away the jade boxes, Wu Zhengjun could only rely on Yu Haoran's high opinion of him to be the first to open the jade box closest to him. This is the ginseng fruit that the great Gajin Yuan used to attain Tao in the Middle Ancient Era. Zhongli Shuai-Qin suddenly took a step forward and cried out involuntarily when she saw a spiritual fruit that looked like a doll in the jade box that Wu Zhengjun opened. After Zhongli Shuai-Qin pointed out the origin of the spiritual fruit in the jade box, Lu Yuan suddenly stood up. Yun Xiang and Fong Man's breathing gradually increased. Black Dragon God, who was guarding outside the pavilion, had a look of intense desire in his eyes. That's right. This is the ginseng fruit that can help Emperor Wu and demigod experts break through to the martial god realm. At the same time that he nodded in confirmation, Yu Haoran stretched out his hand and took out 2 jade boxes. After that, he passed them to Yun Xiang, who was behind him, and instructed. He then instructed, "One of the ginseng fruits is yours. The other one is for Brother Du Yuan. Thank you for your gift, Master." After taking the 2 jade boxes, Yun Xiang knelt down with slightly wet eyes and expressed her gratitude. Then, she got up and went straight to the cultivation room not far away. When Yun Xiang went straight to the cultivation room, Yu Haoran picked up 2 jade boxes from the stone table and handed them to Fong Man. He gave the same instructions. "Man, one of the ginseng fruits is yours. The other one is for your elder brother. Thank you for your gift, master. Like Yun Xiang, Feng Man knelt down and kowtowed to express her gratitude. Then, she took the 2 jade boxes and quickly walked up to Black Dragon God. She handed one of the jade boxes directly to Black Dragon God. Brother Yu, if you have any orders in the future, Feng Shouman will do it. Black Dragon God promised solemnly after swallowing the jade box with his mouth wide open. Brother Feng, you're too kind. The reason why he gave Black Dragon God a ginseng fruit was not only because he was Feng Man's elder brother, but also because he had the Calamity Soul physique. It would be very helpful for his plan to eliminate his enemies in the future. Senior Brother Liu, Miss Shuiqin, here's your ginseng fruit. Yu Haoran smiled and said as he pushed the 2 remaining jade boxes to Liu Yuan and Zhongli Shuiqin. Thank you, Junior Brother Yu. After thinking for a while, Liu Yuan nodded and thanked him. He then put away the jade box with the ginseng fruit. Zhongli Shuiqin, who was looking at the jade box, had a look of hesitation in her eyes. Zhengjun, seeing that Zhongli Shuiqin was unwilling to put away the jade box with the ginseng fruit for a long time, Yu Haoran hurriedly winked at Wu Xingjun, asking him to persuade Zhongli Shuiqin. However, just as Wu Xingjun opened his mouth, before he could say anything, Zhongli Shuiqin, who reached out and pushed the jade box back to Yu Haoran, bowed and asked with a blush on her face. Yu Shixiao, Shuiqin hopes that senior brother can use this ginseng fruit as a gift to propose marriage and do his best to facilitate the marriage between Xiaojun and me. After hearing Zhongli Shuiqin's words, Qin Lingfei and the sword without trace showed a look of admiration in their eyes. Wu Xingjun, on the other hand, had a guilty look in his eyes. He immediately took out the jade box that he had just picked up, then asked Yu Haoran for help. Chapter 1805. Phone Run City, in the prince's mansion. Looking at Zhongli Shuiqin, whose cheeks were slightly red, Yu Haoran gradually withdrew the smile on his face and asked with a solemn expression, Miss Shuiqin, do you truly like Zhengjun? In reply to senior brother, I don't just like Xiaojun, I love him, and I won't marry anyone but him. Zhongli Shuiqin looked at Wu Xingjun with infinite tenderness in her eyes and revealed her true feelings for the first time. Miss Shuiqin, do you know what kind of difficulties and resistance your marriage will encounter? Yu Haoran's expression didn't change at all because of Zhongli Shuiqin's feelings, and he still asked with a solemn expression. After withdrawing her tender gaze from Wu Xingjun, Zhongli Shuiqin said with determination, Senior brother, if the clan opposes my marriage with Zhengjun, then I will completely leave the clan and then wander the world with Zhengjun as a pair of lovebirds. Ignoring Zhongli Shuiqin's determination, Yu Haoran turned to look at Wu Xingjun and asked, Zhengjun, what about you? Senior brother, I'm sorry. Facing Yu Haoran's questioning gaze, Wu Xingjun struggled for a while before finally lowering his head and apologizing softly. Sigh. Knowing Wu Xingjun's final choice, although Yu Haoran felt very gratified in his heart, he still maintained a serious expression. After sighing softly, he stood up and stood in front of Wu Xingjun. Then, he reached out and pressed on Wu Xingjun's shoulder, reminding him with a heavy tone. Zhengjun, do you know the origin of the Zhongli clan? Yu Shixiao, I don't know. Wu Xingjun shook his head. Zhengjun, do you know that from the moment you wander the world with Miss Shuiqin, you'll have to face the pursuit of countless martial sovereigns, Emperor Wu, demigods, martial gods, and even half-tribulation sovereigns and supreme sovereigns? Yu Haoran continued to ask. Looking up at Yu Haoran with a slightly changed expression, Wu Xingjun didn't know how to answer. However, Zhongli Shuiqin, who had already thought about it beforehand, took the initiative to answer for Wu Xingjun. Senior brother, although the Zhongli clan has countless experts, they can't cover the sky with one hand. I know several places where we can avoid the pursuit of the clan experts. Ignoring Zhongli Shuiqin's answer, Yu Haoran questioned asked with a heavy tone. Zhengjun, have you carefully considered whether or not you will bring disaster to me, Ling Fei, and Wu Hin when you decide to wander the world's name? His face, Wu Zhongjuan's face's size, his, he in Shuiqin. In response, Yu Haoran didn't continue to ask questions. Instead, he sat back down on the stone chair, giving Wu Zhongjun time to make the final choice. At the same time, he began to discuss and choose a suitable gift for the marriage proposal with Thowling. The ginseng fruit, which could assist in breaking through to the martial god realm, must be the final gift. The flying smoke sword, which he extorted from the weapon spirit of the Earth Book, could be the second gift for the marriage proposal. The 5 elements and 5 cycles of samsara, which he collected from the Sutras depository in Jinyuan's tomb, could be the third gift for the marriage proposal. Thowling decided to personally refine a divine defensive weapon, which could absorb the power of the stars and was of the high class of the divine realm, as the fourth gift for the marriage proposal. However, according to Thowling's understanding of the customs of the inherited clans, the number of gifts for the marriage proposal was usually even. It was either 4 or 6. The Zhongli clan was the head of the 5 great reclusive clans, and Zhongli Shuiqin, as the most favored young lady of the clan, must be treated with the highest standards. At the same time, in order to give Wu Zhongjun enough face in front of the experts of the Zhongli clan so that he wouldn't be looked down upon and ridiculed for the marriage proposal in the future, Yu Haoran decided to take out 8 to 10 gifts. Now, in addition to the 4 top treasures he had just picked out, he was still short of 4 to 6 gifts for the marriage proposal, which put him in a bit of a dilemma for a moment. Shuiqin, I'm sorry. After a painful struggle in his heart, Wu Zhongjun made the final choice. In the face of friendship and love, he chose the friendship that he would fight for all his life. After hearing Wu Zhongjuan's choice, Zhongli Shuiqin's face turned pale, and her eyes revealed a look of despair and pain. Seeing Wu Zhongjuan's final choice and Zhongli Shuiqin's heartbreak, Yu Haoran knew that his repeated questioning had reached his final goal. As a result, he temporarily suppressed the idea of choosing a gift and stood up again to speak to Zhongli Shuiqin. Miss Shuiqin, do you feel very sad and disappointed by Zhongjuan's choice? Although Zhongli Shuiqin didn't say anything in the face of Yu Haoran's questioning, 2 streams of tears flowed from the corners of her eyes, which was enough to show her sadness at the moment. Miss Shuiqin, just because of my questioning and coercion, just because of Zhongjuan's foolish choice, your feelings for the 2 of you have been shaken. Then, in the future, when the Zhongli clan becomes even more powerful, when the choice is even more difficult to make, how will the 2 of you hold on to the belief that you will never be separated? Zhongli Shuiqin paused slightly in the face of Yu Haoran's questioning, and a trace of thought appeared in her eyes. Without continuing to question Zhongli Shuiqin, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at Wu Zhongjun, whose eyes still showed traces of pain, and criticized angrily. Zhongjun, when I was just a powerless, ordinary person, I dared to resist the oppression of the first elder and the others. When I only had the strength of a martial warrior, I dared to kill my way to the Enforcement Peak alone and face the Peak Lord of the Enforcement Peak, who was a martial king. When I was just an insignificant person, I dared to directly resist the most favored prince of the empire. The more Yu Haoran spoke, the angrier he became. His expression gradually changed from anger to fury as he reprimanded. Now, I'm already at the peak of Emperor Wu's cultivation, and I have the strength of a martial god. Why would I be afraid of the threat of a mere reclusive clan? Faced with Yu Haoran's harsh reprimand, a trace of guilt flashed across Wu Zhongjuan's face, and he lowered his head again. Seeing that Wu Zhongjun still did not realize his mistake, Yu Haoran roared at the top of his lungs, "Raise your head." Zhongjun, although we are not related by blood, in my heart, Yu Haoran, you are my brother from the same mother. As long as you can obtain happiness, I don't care what price I have to pay. My questioning and coercion earlier was a test of the relationship between the 2 of you. At the same time, I hope you can face the feelings between the 2 of you. After hearing Yu Haoran's angry roar, Wu Zhongjun and Zhongli Shuiqin could not help but fall into deep thought. Chapter 1806. Run City, in the prince's mansion, Yu Haoran spoke to Thaling in his sea of consciousness as he gazed in the direction of the southern region. Thaling, I plan to make a trip back to the primeval forest in the mountains where the sect is located. Yu Haoran, although there are rare flowers and herbs of sufficient age growing in that primeval forest, I'm afraid it's far from enough to be used as a marriage proposal gift. After all, the Zhongli clan has been around as long as the Guardian clans, and the last thing they lack are rare flowers and herbs of sufficient age and relatively ordinary species. Knowing that Yu Haoran wanted to return to that primeval forest, Thaling offered a different opinion. Thaling, after my formula Dao cultivation advanced to the Grandmaster realm, I've recalled my experiences over the past few years and realized that both you and I had overlooked a very important point about that primeval forest. Yu Haoran didn't change his mind about returning to the primeval forest just because of Thaling's different opinion. While he insisted on his opinion, he also began to explain the real reason he wanted to return to that primeval forest. What did you overlook? Thaling hurriedly asked. Thaling, given the location of the southern region where the 100 Qi Gate is located, the concentration and purity of the spirit Qi of heaven and earth simply isn't enough to nurture rare treasures. Then, how did the immortal lotus, whose quality doesn't lose out to the ginseng fruit tree in the slightest, succeed in nurturing and growing? Isn't it because of the living soil that can refine the one Qi into 3 pure ones clone technique? Yu Haoran's reminder and explanation made Thaling recall the time he had entered the primeval forest 3 years ago, and immediately recalled the scene when he had seen the immortal lotus rapidly advance in rank. No. While Yu Haoran shook his head in denial, his eyes revealed a trace of solemnity as he explained. Back then, I also thought that the reason the immortal lotus was able to successfully nurture and advance to a grade 6 immortal lotus in such a short time was because it absorbed the pure energy stored in the living soil. But when I was in the Sutra Pavilion in Jinyuan's tomb, I saw information about the living soil in a jade slip that recorded a rare treasure. The living soil condenses and solidifies. The convergence of spirit energy is not something that can be taken away by external forces. Yu Haoran, you mean to say that the growth of the immortal lotus has nothing to do with the soil of breath? There must be an even more shocking treasure hidden in that spring. Condensing and solidifying meant that the living soil could grow on its own like a living being. Spiritual gathering and integration, which was not seized by external objects, meant that the spiritual Qi of heaven and earth gathered could only satisfy the energy required for the growth of the living soil. It was impossible to provide the nutrients required for the growth of other creatures. That's right. While nodding in agreement with Thaling's conjecture, Yu Haoran looked at the southern mountain range with a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Thaling, in fact, not only do I feel that there's something wrong with that spring, I also suspect that there's a shocking secret hidden in that primeval forest. All right, after I've completely stabilized my recovered cultivation, I'll accompany you back to that primeval forest and see what kind of secrets are hidden there. As the immeasurable calamity approached, Yu Haoran's strange feeling that he was the child of destiny would become more and more real. Thus, Thaling, who was also suspicious and interested, ultimately decided to accompany him back to that primeval forest. Senior brother, I was wrong. Yu Shixiang, I was wrong. Just as Yu Haoran and Thaling decided on the plan to return to the primeval forest, Wu Jingjun and Zhongli Shuiqin bowed their heads and admitted their mistakes. Jingjun, Miss Shuiqin, I hope that you can pass my test just now so that your relationship can be official. From now on, you could be a pair of immortal companions flying together. Seeing that Wu Jingjun and Zhongli Shuiqin had already admitted their mistakes, Yu Haoran nodded his head in satisfaction. After exhorting them, he reached out and picked up the jade box with the ginseng fruit on the stone table, handing it over to Zhongli Shuiqin. Miss Shuiqin, as Zhongyuan's brother, I've already prepared a gift for you to propose marriage. You don't need this ginseng fruit, and you don't need to worry about it. So, you should take my gift to you. Thank you, senior brother. After thanking him, Zhongli Shuiqin happily took the jade box. Zhengjun, I have some very important things to deal with during this time, so I can't take you to the Zhongli family for the time being. Yu Haoran picked up the last jade box with the ginseng fruit from the stone table and stuffed it directly into Wu Zhengjuan's arms, explaining with a hint of apology. Senior brother, it's okay. We're not in a hurry. Wu Zhengjun hurriedly shook his head in response to Yu Haoran's apologetic explanation. Consolidate the realm he broke through in Jinyuan's tomb. Break through to the realm of alchemy divinity and investigate the secrets in the primeval forest. He closed his eyes and carefully recalled the things he needed to deal with during this time, as well as the time it would take. Then, he calculated a suitable time to go to the Zhongli family to propose marriage. Zhengjun, give me 2 months. After 2 months, I'll take you to the Zhongli family and completely settle your marriage with Miss Shuiqin. Thank you, senior brother. After hearing Yu Haoran's decision, Wu Zhengjun and Zhongli Shuiqin hurriedly stepped forward to thank him. After waving his hand to indicate that Wu Zhengjun and Zhongli Shuiqin didn't need to thank him, Yu Haoran told Yusiki, Lu Yuan, and Hey Man Divine Dragon. Sister, senior brother Lu, brother Fong, stay in the mansion and cultivate in seclusion during this time. Try to improve your cultivation to the peak of Emperor Wu's 9th level in a short time, and then use the ginseng fruit to break through to the realm of martial divinity. Okay. In the face of Yu Haoran's advice, Yusiki and Lu Yuan nodded in agreement without any hesitation. However, Hey Man Divine Dragon's eyes revealed a trace of hesitation. Master, the mountain my brother is in has the effect of strengthening Hey Man Divine Dragon's poison. If he wants to break through to the realm of God, I'm afraid he'll have to stay in that mountain. Fong Man, who knew the specific situation of Hey Man Divine Dragon, took the initiative to explain for her brother after seeing the hesitation in his eyes. In that case, Brother Fong should return to the Holy Poison Sect as soon as possible and try to break through to the Third Tribulation Demigod realm as soon as possible, becoming an immortal divine beast. After hearing Fong Man's explanation, Yu Haoran felt a little disappointed. However, when he thought of the sibling relationship between Hey Man Divine Dragon and his disciple, the disappointment in his heart disappeared in an instant. At the same time, he gave his most sincere blessings. Brother Yu, after Shomon successfully breaks through to the realm of God, I'll definitely return to this mansion as soon as possible and help Brother Yu solve any problems within my ability. After receiving Yu Haoran's blessings, Hey Man Divine Dragon also gave his promise as he soared into the sky. Ling Fei, Wu Hen, Zhengjun, Miss Shuiqin, Yun Xiang, and Fong Man, you can choose to cultivate in seclusion in the mansion during this period of time, or you can go to the Qinghu mountain range to train. After Hey Man Divine Dragon left the mansion, Yu Haoran instructed Qin Ling Fei and the others. In this way, you can work hard to improve your cultivation and increase your experience in fighting enemies. Chapter 1807. In the prince's mansion in Fengrun City. Phew. After slowly exhaling the turbid qi accumulated in his chest, Yu Haoran slowly opened his eyes, which showed a trace of joy. Back in Jinyuan's tomb, after successfully advancing to the complete level 10 realm of Emperor Wu with the help of the terrifying thunder tribulation formed by the soul-severing divine thunder, he began to threaten the device spirit and obtained 3 primordial spiritual treasures and 29 ginseng fruits. Later, he received the Destiny Stone from the divine beast Black Tortoise and learned his true identity. Then, because Fengrun City was besieged by the martial gods of the Flowing Clouds sect, he hurried back to rescue them. He had not had time to carefully examine, feel, and consolidate the power after the breakthrough, so he did not know the limit of his breakthrough. Now, after nearly 2 days and 2 nights of consolidation, he knew that with the help of the terrifying thunder tribulation formed by the soul-severing divine thunder, not only his cultivation had reached the peak of the complete level 10 realm of Emperor Wu, but also a trace of the mystery of the law of life and death. He had the strength to directly break through to the martial god realm with the help of the ginseng fruits. Of course, with the experience of accumulating in the martial sage realm and the martial venerable realm, he was not in a hurry to break through to the martial god realm at this time. He still hoped to continue to achieve a leap in cultivation through the accumulation in the complete level 10 realm of Emperor Wu. After taking a deep breath and forcibly suppressing the joy in his heart, Yu Haoran took out the cultivation jade slip of Pil Dao left by Xinyuanzi from the victor and began to reread the records of how to break through to the alchemy god realm in order to prepare for the next breakthrough. Just as Yu Haoran was immersed in the cultivation of Pil Dao in the jade slip, outside the practice room, Lan Rong anxiously asked Qin Lingfei for help. "Your Highness, the situation outside Fengrun City is getting more and more urgent. I hope you can wake up the Prince Consort now and let him come out to take charge of the situation." General Lan, before the Prince Consort went into closed-door cultivation, he specifically instructed that no matter what happens outside, we cannot disturb his cultivation. Qin Lingfei rejected Lan Rong's request without any hesitation. "Your Highness, according to the informants I planted outside the city, there are close to 1,000 experts gathered outside the city." In the face of Qin Lingfei's categorical rejection, Lan Rong took a deep breath and tried his best to calm down. He hoped that by introducing the urgent situation outside the city in detail, he could move the princess's determination to awaken her husband. Next, whether we open the city to meet the enemy or evacuate Fengrun City, we need Prince Consort to make a decision quickly. If this drags on, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave even if we want to. Qin Lingfei's eyes flashed with hesitation when she heard that there were close to 1,000 martial honors and above gathered outside the city, and that the number was still increasing. However, when she thought of Yu Haoran's solemn instructions before he went into closed-door cultivation, she couldn't immediately make the decision to wake him up. For a moment, she didn't know what to do. "General Lan, what happened?" Although Thaling was immersed in the comprehension of alchemy and couldn't notice what was happening outside the cultivation room, he had already finished consolidating his realm and had been paying attention to the situation in the mansion. Therefore, when he saw the argument between Qin Lingfei and Lan Rong, he directly woke up Yu Haoran, who had entered the jade slip with his consciousness. "Prince Consort." Seeing Yu Haoran walking out of the cultivation room, Qin Lingfei's eyes flashed with surprise and ran to him. "Greetings, Prince Consort." After kneeling on one knee, Lan Rong immediately explained in detail what had happened outside Fengrun City in the past 2 days. Yu Haoran frowned slightly when he heard that a group of cultivators whose cultivations Lan Rong couldn't see through had suddenly gathered outside Fengrun City. He spread out his divine thought and carefully checked the situation. When he saw that most of the thousands of cultivators gathered outside Fengrun City were martial honors and Emperor Wu's cultivations, a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. "Yu Haoran, could it be because of the ginseng fruit?" Thaling also saw the cultivators gathering outside the city. He thought for a moment, and then reminded him with a solemn expression. After all, when Yu Haoran had threatened the weapon spirit of the Earth Book to obtain all the ginseng fruits on the ginseng tree, there were more than 40 cultivators from the Guardian families, reclusive families, and the Sky Martial sect outside the mountain range. Given the ginseng fruit's powerful effect of assisting in breaking through to the martial god realm, they would probably do something crazy. "I don't think so." Yu Haoran shook his head and retorted. Because of Thaling's reminder, he had his doubts at first. However, outside Jinyuan's tomb in Fengrun City, he had already exposed his strength, which was not inferior to that of a beginner in the martial god realm. If it was really because of the ginseng fruit, then the cultivators gathering outside Fengrun City at this moment must be at the martial god realm at the very least. Otherwise, even if there were so many cultivators at martial honors and Emperor Wu's level, they would not be a threat to him, who had just entered the martial god realm. Since he could not guess the reason why those cultivators gathered in Fengrun City, he might as well face them directly and get the answer he wanted from them. After making a decision in his heart, Yu Haoran soared into the sky and went straight out of Foam Run City. Look, Yu Haoran is coming out. Just as Yu Haoran landed on the city wall, an expert whose cultivation was only at the peak of level 2 of Emperor Wu's level immediately warned him loudly. The warning of Emperor Wu's peak of level 2 of the cultivators gathered outside the city immediately turned their eyes to Yu Haoran, who was standing on the city wall. "It's you." After taking a closer look at the expert who had warned him, Yu Haoran felt a sense of familiarity. He immediately remembered that this person was the one who had commented on his strength during the Hidden Dragon List battle in the Central Region. "I didn't expect Elixir Emperor Yu to still remember me." Seeing that Yu Haoran had recognized him, the expert with the surname Hu sighed with a complicated expression. Back then, when Yu Haoran had participated in the Hidden Dragon List battle in the Central Region, he had only been a genius at the peak of level 9 Martial Saint, while he had been a peerless expert at the peak of level 9 Martial Honor. Now, although he had become a powerful expert at the peak of level 2 of Emperor Wu's realm, he could not catch up or surpass Emperor Wu's achievements. "Senior, may I know why you are gathering outside Foam Run City at this moment?" Yu Haoran's comments during the competition had played a huge role in increasing his reputation. Yu Haoran had not forgotten this kindness, so his tone of questioning was still relatively gentle. Facing Yu Haoran's gentle questioning, the expert with the surname who looked at the people around him and hesitated. He did not know how to answer. "Senior, no matter whether you came to Foam Run City with good intentions or bad intentions, as long as you are completely honest, I will not pursue the matter." Chapter 1808. Outside Foam Run City. Cough. After Yu Haoran promised not to pursue the matter, Elder, whose eyes flashed with interest. Just as he was about to explain why he was in Foam Run City, a cough came from the crowd. Although the cough was very weak, Elder, whose expression changed slightly, and he didn't speak. "Get out here." Perhaps the person who coughed thought that he was very discreet and wouldn't be noticed by Yu Haoran. But his spiritual sense had already covered the Thaling of the crowd and locked onto the person who coughed. After receiving Thaling's warning, Yu Haoran roared and condensed his soul power into a giant hand that grabbed at the center of the crowd. A white-haired old man in a white robe with a dignified appearance, about 60 years old. Clear wind slash. Seeing the giant hand grabbing at him, the white-haired old man's expression changed slightly. He immediately took out his high-grade Emperor sword and quickly used a peak heaven-class sword technique. The white-haired old man's cultivation was at the peak of Emperor Wu's 7th rank, and his sword technique, combined with his sword, was at the early 8th rank of Emperor Wu's 8th rank. But in the face of the giant hand, the sharp sword chi couldn't withstand a single blow. The giant hand shattered the sword chi and grabbed the white-haired old man. Grabbing the white-haired old man and returning to the city wall, the giant hand contained pure soul power and quickly sealed the old man's dantian and soul. Someone from the Yushu Temple. After sealing the old man's dantian and soul and understanding the characteristics of the old man's cultivation, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with murderous intent. His expression was gloomy as he revealed the old man's origin. "Yu Haoran, I'll use a secret technique that can corrode the soul to weaken this old man's soul." When he heard Yu Haoran say that the white-haired old man was Emperor Wu from the Yushu Temple, Thaling suddenly remembered that the Black Tortoise had mentioned that the Heavenly Will had pointed out Ji Xing, the master of the Yushu Temple, as the child of destiny who could start and end the immeasurable calamity. He immediately realized that the reason thousands of experts gathered outside Foam Run City was likely related to the fake child of destiny, Ji Xing. Thus, he planned to let Yu Haoran use a soul-searching technique to verify his speculation. All right, Yu Haoran also realized the problem and immediately nodded in agreement. When the white-haired old man's soul was weakened to the martial saint realm, Yu Haoran directly placed his hand on his head and used a soul-searching technique to check his memories. Perhaps because Ji Xing was overconfident, the white-haired old man's soul didn't have any restrictions, allowing Ji Xing to easily red his entire life. After Yu Haoran directly shattered the old man's head, Thowling hurriedly asked, "Yu Haoran, what do you think?" Thowling, these people were bewitched and coerced by Ji Xing, the master of the Yushu Temple's heavenly palace, to come to Fengrun City. They only have one goal, and that is to kill me, Yu Haoran, and seize my ginseng fruit and innate spiritual treasure, as well as destroy the floating prince's mansion. Yu Haoran looked at the thousands of experts gathered outside the city, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The white-haired old man he had just killed was not only a powerful elder of the Yushu Temple's heavenly palace, but also the person in charge of this operation. After searching his memories, Ji Xing learned that the Black Tortoise had personally gone to the Yushu Temple after leaving Jin Yuan's tomb. Apart from concealing his identity as the Chosen One and his newly attained martial god realm strength, it didn't hide anything else from Ji Xing. Yu Haoran knew very well that the Black Tortoise's actions seemed to be to curry favor with Ji Xing, but in reality, it wanted to use the ginseng fruit and innate spiritual treasure to force Ji Xing to reveal his identity as the Chosen One. Then, it would use the uniqueness of the Chosen One to lure some experts hidden in the dark to take the initiative to jump out. It also hoped to use this method to divert the world's attention from him, so that he would have more time and a safer environment to improve his cultivation and strength. Yu Haoran remembered the Black Tortoise's good intentions. Yu Haoran, what do you want to do next? In contrast to Yu Haoran's relaxed state of mind, Thowling's heart felt a little heavy when he saw the thousands of experts gathered outside the city, just as he had speculated. He knew that since Ji Xing dared to reveal his identity as the Chosen One, he must have obtained the approval of the heavens. In other words, the three supreme experts who had been hiding in the dark would gradually intervene in the disputes of the Tianxian continent. This was not a good thing for Yu Haoran, who had yet to truly grow up and find the heavens will stone tablet as the child of destiny. Refine my hands. Unaware of Thowling's heavy mood, Yu Haoran used his divine thoughts to inform Qin Lingfei, the sword without trace, Wu Jingjun, Yun Xiang, and Feng Man to come over. At the same time, he ordered Lan Rong to activate the defensive and offensive formations of Fengrun City before replying to Thowling's inquiry. That works too. Among the thousands of experts gathered outside the city, the one with the highest cultivation was Emperor Wu, who was at the peak of level 7. With Qin Lingfei and the others' cultivation and strength, as well as the means they had mastered, they could not only ensure their own safety, but also improve their cultivation and strength through the process of fighting the enemy. After Qin Lingfei and the other four arrived at the city wall, and Lan Rong and the other generals entered the offensive formation, Yu Haoran told everyone his thoughts and arrangements. After receiving everyone's agreement, Yu Haoran looked at the thousands of experts outside the city again. His gaze finally stopped on the expert, surnamed Hu. "Senior, as long as you leave Fengrun City immediately, this junior's promise of forgiveness will still be valid." The expert surnamed, who had already guessed what the audacious Yu Haoran was going to do next, since he did not fear the power of the Yushu Temple and directly killed the Yushu Temple's Emperor Wu. Although he had a large number of people on his side, he knew from the strength Yu Haoran had just shown that in the face of absolute strength, the advantage of numbers was simply useless. Therefore, in the face of Yu Haoran's repeated care, the expert surnamed, who did not continue to insist, after clasping his hands in gratitude, he directly rose into the air and left Fengrun City. However, just as he was about to soar into the air, a voice filled with menace forced him to stop in midair. "Hu Qingyang, if you dare to escape on your own, your Hu clan will be the first to be destroyed before the immeasurable calamity begins. Old man, no one knows whether the Hu clan will be destroyed in the future. The only thing I can be sure of now is that at least you won't live to see that day." That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.